industry. National anthem, please. Thank you so much. Please, you can be seated. The Honorable Minister of Livestock Development, Federal Republic of Nigeria, in the person of Idi Mukhtar Meiha. The Honorable Minister of State for Industry, in the person of our own Honorable John Eno. I say our own because I'm a Cross-Riverian and I identify with my state. Other distinguished presidents of associations, partners of the Africa Agriculture Dialogue, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the diplomatic corps, members of the press corps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Mark Mbaram. I am the advisor to the African Development Bank on Agriculture for the Nigeria Country Office, and I also double as the Director General of the Africa Agriculture Dialogue Secretariat. I will, for the purpose of this activity, be your compare. This is the second day of a profoundly important activity in the history of African agriculture. For the first time, the Africa Agriculture Dialogue, which ordinarily is held every year as part of the World Food Prize Program in Des Moines, Iowa, is being convened on the continent of Africa. And it has pleased the board of the Africa Agriculture Dialogue to convene this event here in Nigeria. Equally, it is being held in Abuja, in the seat of power, on account of the decision of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in the person of Asiwaju, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's decision to host this event directly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very important because it typifies Nigeria's resolve to lead the continent as far as agricultural development is concerned. And it is not for nothing that His Excellency the President is called Asiwaju. Asiwaju, I understand, in Yoruba means leading from the front. Accordingly, we will just go into a recap of what had happened yesterday, Excellencies, because a lot went down. We had the Honorable Minister of Livestock Development here with us, alongside the Senior Special Advisor, Assistant to the President on Livestock Development, and of course, other dignitaries. And we had a participation from other stakeholders, particularly the private sector. And it was a really, really profound time, particularly when we went for the breakout sessions. Breakout sessions were done in 3 separate compartmentalization. The first was the session that was under the auspices of HEFA International. It had a topic, optimizing investment in livestock and dairy farming. The presenter was Dr. Ayode Akere, and the support line of facilitators were Dr. Lekon Tobe of HEFA International, Alhaji Muhammad Yusuf Lere, Sain Lere, the President, Nigeria-Egypt Business Council, alongside Dr. Lekon Tobe, were the facilitators. The next was the one for Solidaridad Network. It had a topic, optimizing investment in the crop value chain. Mr. Kenechukwu Chudi Onwukwebe, the program manager for Solidaridad West Africa, handled that session, while Mrs. Ebele Chukwu Nwachukwu, the CEO of Rex Insurance, and MS Uzomaka Ugochukwu were the were the facilitators. She, Ms. Uzoma Ugochukwu, is the public sector engagement specialist for Chorus International. Then the government of Denmark had a session as well. The topic for that was cold chain, catalyzing investment and market access. I personally attended that one, and it was handled by Miss Victoria Epele, the commercial advisor, Trade Council of Denmark in Sub-Saharan Africa. Engineer Jerry Cunningham and Professor Francis Toromade, both of the one being the Managing Director, America West Africa Agro Limited, and the other Director General, Feed Industry Practitioners Association of Nigeria, both facilitated that session. It was really an interesting time, Excellencies. And we have made up our minds to have feedback from those sessions this morning, just so that we get the context of what transpired. The one I attended was really fantastic. The presenter was spot on, showing us clearly how the dynamics at play in the agric production ecosystem affects post-harvest loss realities in the sector, and the intervention of the Danish government in ensuring that cold chain and temperature-sensitive logistics can be infused to alter the realities there. I will be calling on each of those presenters to quickly step forward, if they're here, to basically give us a sense of what transpired in each of those sessions. The first being Dr. Ayode Akere. Is he here? Dr. Akere, please a round of applause for him. For Dr. Akere's session, and you can bear me out, we had gone for lunch and we were almost wrapped up with lunch. They were still having their time in the room. I had to go there 3 times. And the folks were saying, sorry, just leave us alone. This is no need for food. This is the food we came for. Dr. Akere, you need to tell us what you gave to them. The next is Mr. Kenechukwu Onwukwebe. Kene, please. Sit right beside. No, flip it over. Sit. No, come this way. Sit there. No, the next seat. The next seat. Yes, I'll tell you why. All right. The next is a lady, so I want her in between. And Miss Victoria Epele, please come. Please, a round of applause for her. We can do better because they will accuse us now of being insensitive to gender. Let me add my own here. All right, Dr. Akere, I'll start with you while Victoria is coming up because we need to save time. What did you give to those people? What made them sit stuck to their chairs, the whole time and refuse to eat lunch? Tell us.
I think what happened yesterday was talked about livestock, especially cow, in a way that the guy in the office and the guy on the field can understand it. We brought to life the fact that the cows are to be cared for like humans. And that is the fact that you need crops. We need food. And the same way that we need food, our cows need food. So the things that we do for ourselves, we plant crops to feed ourselves, then we need to be able to plant crops to feed the cows rather than just let them roam to get fed. And in order to feed them, we can plant exactly the same thing, but more, so that as we set our own and feed ourselves, we also are leaving some for the cows to feed, or even deliberately plant some for the cows to feed, rather than just assuming that by going all the way from as far as there's grass somewhere, let them feed on grass, to be deliberate. And so we talked about the concept of feedlots, especially for the cows that can give us beef. And then the ones that we can get milk from, they need to not just graze, they need to be grazed within a confined place. There's got to be fencing, and there's got to be food. And if you have those provided for them, then there is no problem. And guess what? Who produces what we feed on? The farmers. And the farmers will benefit from producing for the herders. And the herders will benefit, and their cows will benefit from so there should be no conflict. It should be an easy thing. The farmers should love the herders should love the farmers. Once we get that concept and we follow through with it, Nigeria will be great, because the farmers will make money from producing for the herders.
No, Doc, let me stop you before you also get my minister wound up, because this is music to his ears. Victoria.
Okay, so
Tell me what went down, even though I was there.
yes, you were there. In our session, we spoke about catalyzing investments in cold chain, and we started with a presentation giving an overview of the cold chain sector as a whole. We spoke about food security. Of course, we're all aware about the top figures, 40%, deficits in terms of food that spoils due to poor storage facilities are available. We spoke about 1.5 billion being needed in sub-Saharan Africa. And that's not something that we expect only the public sector to support with. We also need support from the private sector as well. We spoke about challenges around energy and logistics, particularly with last mile delivery, and how even large organizations like APM Terminal has, also brought to our attention that they would like local support with last mile delivery, cold chain storage as well. Then we spoke about opportunities for international partnerships. I did give some examples of some Danish companies looking to partner with local institutions, but also within technology as well, because within cold chain, we can adopt technology, especially with monitoring and control remotely as well. And then we gave the case study from Denmark. So we have a cold chain strategic project that's running right now, and it's focused on 3 pillars: awareness. It's also focused on capacity development and facilitating networks and connections. So for capacity development, so far we have engaged a cold chain consortium called Otaqua to engage in training relevant stakeholders across different states. And the first state we started with was Kano State, and the training was administered 2 weeks ago successfully, covering topics on sustainability, especially with the energy deficit that we have in the country, how to apply renewable energy to setting up cold chain storage facilities, and also incorporation of technology. And then for facilitating networks and connections, we had a cold chain networking summit in Lagos some weeks ago, and we were fortunate to have different stakeholders, farmers, financial institutions, public stakeholders there, and really facilitating those conversations about what kind of projects they can do together. And it was an opportunity for many individuals in the room to meet stakeholders that normally they wouldn't have access to as well. And then finally, what's the last bit? So yeah, capacity development, awareness, and yes, we're going to have a report at the end of the year that will be drawn up, because we believe that it's important to share the knowledge of our experiences from local stakeholders and the international partners in improving the cold chain industry as well. But it doesn't stop there. We also spoke about the financing aspects. Okay, I'll wrap it up quickly. But tailoring actual financial packages that are relevant to value chain. So it's not enough for commercial banks to say, oh, we have access to finance for farmers, but tailoring it to the value chain itself, calling it a cold chain financial facility so they know what it is, and also communicate that.
Thanks, Victoria. Thank you. I mean, you get the feel.
Yeah.
Kenny, it's you now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Distinguished guests, honorable ministers. So yesterday, we summarized the critical challenges in the crop value chain across what we refer to as a 3-pie challenge. One is the fact that the value chain is still emasculated by volatile commodity exports challenges, in addition to the challenges of the shocks from climate change, internal economic shocks in country, and within within Africa's the barriers within African trade, and the third one, the over-reliance on external credits as a major source of resourcing agriculture, the crop value chain. Now, that over-reliance of external credits as a lifter off, from the shocks, we interrogated, and we found that a major concern by stakeholders is that the agri-political economy and the crop value chain needs to have a shift. If it continues the way it is, then that value chain will continue to suffer under deprivation of lack of adequate resources to be able to lift it to where it ought to be. So using the Solidaridad models, we presented some of the proof of concepts that we have tried in the north, in the horticulture value chain in the north, in the northwest of Nigeria, and potato value chain in plateau, on the plateau, and then also in 3 crop value chains across cocoa, oil palm, and cashew. We have been able to demonstrate that certain of these models can work, and that we need to indeed take advantage of the PPP arrangements, or in fact, we actually brought in 4 Ps: private sector, public sector, philanthropy, partnership, to be able to leverage on these models and scale them up with the mandate public MDAs that are working in these sectors that have the mandates for crop value chain. Okay. And of course, that's Ministry of Agriculture and the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment.
Fantastic. So,
thank you.
I'm not taking words from you. I had to let the lady do her thing because, it is what it is. The Minister of Industry has a hard stop, actually. We had taken all the time we were meant to, be with him. But we want to have a quick activity before he leaves us. So I can crave the indulgence of my panel. Folks, you've seen why, the sessions yesterday were fantastic. We will come back to them again much later, but for now, I think this is where we let it go. Thank you so much for yesterday. And I think, where are the cameramen? Just a quick picture, and then we can get on to the next item. All right. Thank you so much. Colleagues, please let's set this up for the fireside very quickly, the ministerial fireside, right away. For this purpose, we will be having the Honorable Minister of Livestock Development and the Honorable Minister of Industry, alongside the Senior Special Assistant to the President, join us up here, sir. Can you give them a round of applause just to motivate them to? Honorable Minister of State, sir, we won't take your time, we promise. Thank you so much for the sacrifice of being here, sir. We appreciate it. Yes, Honorable Ministers and the Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President, thank you for joining this fireside engagement. First and foremost, we want to look at the Africa Agriculture Dialogue as an undertaking and look at the ecosystem of agriculture as a whole on the continent. And we want to mirror the profound policy steps undertaken by this administration in Nigeria that has brought it into focus on the continent around three major decisions or policy actions that we're experiencing here in Nigeria. The first is the introduction of a state of emergency in the agricultural sector. Unprecedented, first time it's happening. Across of the continent also, difficult to see anywhere other than where you have, that is war-torn, that you have this in place. The next is the creation of a livestock development ministry, standalone. Also very, very unprecedented. It's been a while, 65 years have passed, nothing of the sort has happened, and all of a sudden, the president pulled this out of the heart, from, under the heart. The next is the recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture. 1.5 trillion naira handed to the bank to ensure that smallholder farmers and other players in the sector can get access to finance. Honorable Minister of Industry, Honorable Minister of State for Industry, sir, I want to start with you to ask, how does this resonate with Nigeria's capacity to basically add value to outputs from the sector of agriculture and then be a major player within the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, ecosystem? How does that resonate?
Yeah, thank you. First, I think that the idea of an Africa agriculture dialogue holding in an African soil, and especially in Nigeria, I think is a very brilliant one, and I'd like to commend AFDB and all those that have made this to happen. It's throughout yesterday I was involved at the Nigeria Economic Summit, and I'm actually supposed to be my way out of Abuja. But I think that this discussion and this summit resonates and speaks to quite a lot that our country is about and that we should be moving towards. So you've mentioned about three very profound fundamental movements that have occurred through the current president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Earlier on, you had talked about who an Asiwaju is, and I think that we're not surprised. The surprise really is why it has had to take so long, for this to happen. It's the creation of a Ministry of Livestock, I mean, the recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture, and the third, so each of these, taken separately, taken all together, has quite some very significant, impact, on our circumstances and the situation, of agricultural progress and development. You talked about the AFCFTA. Globally, all countries, more or less, nearly all, that have attained economic, growth, progress, that have attained industrialization, what they've had to do is to progress from, an agricultural country. They've had to develop their agriculture. They've had to elevate it, improve upon it, to achieve industrialization. So if there is one country that the potentials for that are almost like given, I think it's Nigeria. Nigeria is an agricultural belt, huge size and population, and the weather, the seasons, all of that, make us, potentially, one of the strongest. So I think that our challenge is to move the needle, is to improve upon it, in terms of, looking at agriculture, not strictly as agriculture alone, but as part of a value chain, as part of value addition, as part of, and I'm glad that the key in this is the financing. So it's a bit, unthinkable and unspeakable that we've had a Bank of Agriculture in our country, which really, until now, hasn't played its proper role. As minister who is in charge of industry, and I've done quite some movements around the country, almost everywhere I've gone to, I'm greeted first by an enterprise or a manufacturing concern that first thanks BOI, the Bank of Industry, for what its circumstances have become. That means that the Bank of Industry has actually been at the bottom, at the head of a lot of the industrial progress and development so far. We're not there yet. And you would expect and imagine that if the Bank of Agriculture was doing something similarly, I think that our situation would be. So that recapitalization in itself is strong, is super, and it gets us, so everybody looks up to an opportunity that the Bank of, Agriculture. I give you one example to illustrate the intricate balance that continues to exist between agriculture and industry. Our entire, backward integration programs, are almost, invariably tied up, to progress in agriculture. We are currently involved in an effort to revitalize our cotton, textile, and garment, ecosystem. And you can't make significant progress without making progress in cotton growing, cotton cultivation, and the kind of seedlings and all of that. In the next few weeks, I am hoping to be able to have an engagement with the Bank of Agriculture and all of that. So I think that I expect and I hope that particularly at this time where the global community, either in terms of China under the BRICS initiative, having a summit on partnership for the new industrial revolution, or UNIDO in the sidelines of the last hunger, talking about the fourth industrial development decade for Africa, or indeed in country, the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria just signed with UNIDO the program for country partnership. So there's renewed emphasis and talk and discussion on industrialization and manufacturing. So it's also right that at this same time, we got a dialogue on agriculture, and we got all of this coming together. We got the president being very determined and very intentional, because industrialization will not just occur on its own. It has to be worked towards, concerted effort, intentional decisions and policies. And that's what the president is doing. He's leading from the front, and I think he needs and deserves a lot of commendation. Thank you.
Please, a round of applause for our minister. Fantastic, sir. And when we're talking on this point of leadership, Honorable Minister, Livestock Development, I'm coming to you, sir. If you look at the trend for 65 years in the sector that you administer and the decision on the part of our president to create your ministry, with the declaration of a state of emergency in the back, in your rear mirror, what would you say is the impact, or implication of the creation of your ministry? Honorable Minister, sir.
Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the Diplomatic Corps, good morning, everyone. Well, I think one can say without any fear of contradiction that this is the youngest ministry in Africa, as well as the youngest ministry in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It did come as a surprise to many observers that why do we need a separate ministry of livestock away from agriculture the way it has been since 1st October 1960. But however, between then and now, there has been a lot of changes, a lot of dynamics, and the focus also has changed over the years. Now, with the 3 other reforms that have actually taken place, the 4th one being the creation of the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, would probably be the icing on the cake. Now, if you look at the farming community today in the country, the average age of Nigerian farmers is about 60 years of age. How much can they do? Looking at the drudgery of manual labor, we are not mechanized, neither at the agronomic section nor at the animal husbandry section. Without creating that Ministry of Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, how do you attract and get focus on that livestock sector? That today, at the creation of the ministry, the value has been estimated at $32 billion. Now imagine an economy where $32 billion is outside the formal sector. It is not mainstreamed. It's just at the margins of the economy, employing millions of Nigerians. About 47% of Nigerian families have one form of livestock or the other, and yet they are not at the planning table. They are not the main focus. So the wisdom and strategy of Mr. President is to get us focused, not just a mere cosmetic in the name of creating the ministry for administrative purposes. The intention here is to say, look, we have recruited the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development into Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. There is declaration of emergency on food. There is also the creation of the Bank of Agriculture. Therefore, the creation of the Federal Ministry of Livestock has come as a natural, flow to emphasize the need, to unlock the potentials in the livestock sector. And between the creation of the ministry to date, a lot has happened. If, for instance, at the time of the creation of the ministry, we had only 3 state governments with similar ministries at the state level. As of today, we have about 17 state governments have created similar ministries or agencies to give particular focus on the livestock sector. And that means that Mr. President's decision has resonated across the country and, in fact, beyond the country. If you look at how we've been received under the AU-IBAR, Food and Agriculture Organization, and other multilateral organizations, as well as development partners all across the globe, that has gone to demonstrate that really Mr. President's vision is very strategic to mainstream the animal sector, the livestock sector, in the economic dynamics of the country. And like I pointed out, how do you attract people into that sector without giving it that dedicated focus? For instance, the youth in the country today, that that demographic group is about 60% of our population. That is a population of 230 million Nigerians, 60% of whom are below 35 years of age. How do you attract them without creating that ministry, without unlocking the potentials, without also recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture so that people can have access to finance? So that is precisely what is happening. And as of today, we are looking at an opportunity where we can invite the teeming youth of the country into livestock value chains.
Excellent.
Measure it from the honeybee to the tallest, that is the camel. There are a lot of opportunities for us all over the place. In fact, the creation of that ministry is demonstrating the renewed hope agenda, that it is one singular sector that has the opportunity to create multidimensional prosperity for everybody, shared prosperity, wealth creation, job creation, peace and social harmony all across the country. That is the message we are sending, and that is what we are out to partner with everybody in the trajectory to drive home creation of more wealth, more value for Nigeria and for Nigerians.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. No, if you want to clap, I beg, just go ahead and clap. You know I'm a Nigerian, so I can say I beg. Let's get there. Honorable Minister, you've touched on something very critical, and I'm going to push that to the, if I crave your indulgence, SSAP, to say the young man beside you. So, youth, the issue of that bulging, aspect of the demography. How do you see Mr. President's policy decisions, pushing the envelope for integrating the youth part of the demography into the agricultural productivity ecosystem, whether you're talking primary production, processing, industrial offtake, not just in Nigeria, but across the continent?
Good morning. Thank you. I think has been highlighted by Mr. President's decisions and reforms so far. The youth play a key role. They have been identified as key players in moving Nigeria forward and embarking on the transformation that is required within the livestock sector and within Nigeria as a whole and on the continent as a whole. And as the Honorable Minister said, the youths make up over 65% of the population today for the under 35s. And so we have a key role to play. I just fall below that age bracket, but we have such an important role to play. And Mr. President and the Ministry of Livestock is focused on seeing how we can key in the youths throughout the value chain of the livestock sector. There's so much opportunities for the young people, whether it be learning about the involvement of AI-powered tools and smart systems in the livestock sector. They are the ones that have that knowledge. We need them to be involved more. And part of my role as SSA is to seeing how we can convince more youths and show more youths the benefits and the profitability of the sector. Yes.
Thank you so much. Honorable Minister of State for Industry, I'll come back to you, distinguished Senator. I think that at this point we can begin to draw the lines and connect the dots around the fact that agriculture is changing on the continent of Africa. But industry, primarily, particularly for Nigeria, will be the galvanizing, will provide the galvanizing impetus. From where you sit and you look at the agro-industrial ecosystem, what are the things that we need to really put in place very quickly to align Mr. President's, aspirations and ambitions, with, the need to also get things fixed on the ground in order to bring it to realization?
I mean, I believe that some we're already doing. I mean, some it's still work in progress. I mean, it's. I mean, the key point is, access to, affordable long-term finance. I mean, that has to be, has to be put in place. The extent to which our farmers, our practitioners have access to scale up. When I talk about the fact that some we're already doing, recently, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, under the industry mandate, that I lead, validated the National Industrial Policy. That policy, puts a lot of premium on agricultural development and makes agriculture part of the value chains for industry, industrial growth and development. So from the point of policy, that is already been, it's already been acknowledged and it's going on. At some point, earlier this year, the AFDB, did groundbreaking in about 2 or so, special agri-processing zones, one in Kaduna, one back home in our state, of Cross River. So that's already taking place. And those are 2 or 3 out of so many others that are supposed to, to happen. I believe that that's a very significant step that is going to assist that. Currently, the ministry is also engaging with, I think Africa, yes, the same AFDB on what we call the MSME industrial, cluster program, because as we try, because of the constraints and the challenges, we may not be able to get, amenities and infrastructure to everywhere. So by the time we identify and recognize the different strengths across the country and be able to have cluster industrial developments and parks, that are built to align with those innate, existence of those products and all that, it gets us there. So Nigeria is a key player in terms of the African Continental Free Trade Area. I mean, Nigeria is participating, with a goal in mind. That goal is to become a primary exporter, of processed goods, and services, and not to be, seen or regarded as a dumping ground, which we need to watch out, because Nigeria's market within the African continent is the biggest and the hugest, so we're going to be targeted. So we need to be prepared for that. So everything that we do must be in terms of, seeing how much we can, scale, how much we can innovate, what technology that we use, and how competitive that we can be. So it remains work in progress, but I think that, industry and agriculture will continue, to play side by side, because our industrial growth is going to depend a lot on our ability as a country, to see how we can, contribute, to the value chain. We'll see how we can increase our production. Most of that production is going to take place in terms of the agricultural goods and products, that we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. And it really takes us to the issue, Honorable Minister for Livestock, how, you can pretty much weaponize the livestock sector to achieve, the objectives of increasing livelihoods, making prosperity democratized reality for the Nigerian populace. I hear you recently talking about disease-free zones and how this would help expand the exportability of Nigeria's livestock products in terms of reaching out to other markets. How can you elaborate on this? Just what we can gain from the measures that you're looking to undertake.
Okay, thank you. Just to latch on to what my brother Mr. John Eno said, regarding export African Continental Free Trade Zone. Actually, in the livestock sector, we are looking beyond Africa. If you look at the potentials today in the country, they are huge. Both domestically, we have a lot of room for improvement to meet the demand for animal-based protein. Talking of eggs, talking of beef, talking of dairy. When we would say beef, well, let's use red meat. That includes everything from the chicken to the pig, to the sheep, to the goat, to the camel, and of course, the cattle. Now, we are holding a lot of conversations with the organized private sector, particularly if you focus on the red meat industry. There are huge opportunities there. Yes, the opportunity is there, but are we ready to play in the global market? And that's precisely what we are doing now, trying to identify those areas where we can create disease-free zones and disease-free compartments, where we can get certified by the responsible organizations, and then create those pockets where we can begin to process red meat, cold chain, storage, packaging, and transportation, both for local and international consumption when we can meet the standard. Here, the issue of standard is very, very important. You have to look at hazard analysis, control of critical points, the ISO 22000 certification, the OIE certifications. All these are very, very critical for us to measure up to the international standard. But they are not things that are unsurmountable. We have already identified areas that we can work on. Some of the private practitioners are here. I've had discussion with some of them. Many of them are out there within the country. We are talking with them. And that is going to bring about shared prosperity. It is no longer sustainable. It is not acceptable. We continue trading in live animals. You pick cows from Maiduguri, from Sokoto, from Kano, from Katsina, and transport them more than 1,000 kilometers to the marketing basin, to the southern part of this country. The transportation conditions are not humane. They are not standard. You take them to the larages in those areas. The abattoirs are not organized. Sanitary conditions are not acceptable. This cannot continue. And there lies the prosperity. There lies the prosperity. If you organize slaughter processing in a particular area, nothing goes to waste, from the blood to the hoofs, to the waste, to the solid waste, to the marrow, to the bones, to the horns, to the hoofs. All these are raw materials for other industries. So that is where the prosperity is, and that's what we need to do. Look at also the dairy sector. Take one mama cow that gives you 20 liters of milk per day. Take your calculator and follow me. 20 liters times 1,500 naira per liter. If you have 10 of those cows, you can milk that mama cow for 270 days. Times 10 cows. How much are you going to make for a cow? In fact, that is the future crude oil for this country. This is what we are planning. That is the foundation we are laying. That is the foundation we are laying. Look at leather works. Look at leather works. There are 33 million primary school going children in Nigeria. 33 million. Imagine you are into the leather works of manufacturing shoes for primary school going children. Kano has about 5 million. Benue has about 670,000 primary school going children. Kaduna has 1,803,000 children going to primary school. That is a captive market for anybody who wants to go into leather works. Schools, school bags, school shoes, belts, caps, ladies' bags, you can mention it. So this is what we are talking about. That is where the prosperity is. Look at pigs. We are going to develop 4 progenic centers in the country. Okpuje in Enugu, Yendef in Benue, Back farms in Plateau, and then in Kachia. These are areas where we can have the genetic materials, pure genetic materials for progeny of pigs, and that capability all over the place. We are also planning to work private sector to come with modular abattoirs for the processing of pigs, etc., etc. So the prosperity is all over the country.
Thank you very much.
There is no country, there is no section of the country today that is not going to partake in what we are talking about. Imagine from New Marte to Calabar, from Sokoto to Abeokuta.
It's all livestock we have all over the place. And it's the only sector where you can harvest every day. Every day you can pick an egg. Every day you can slaughter a chicken. Every day you can milk a goat. Every day you can milk a cow. Every day you can go into all these things. So there is no waiting. There is no waiting. Let me tell you, I am not being religiously insensitive. What is the population of the world today? 7 billion? 8 billion? How many people started this world? 2 people, Adam and Eve. So get 2 goats, get 2 sheep, get 2 pigs. They multiply over the years. Today the population of the world is 7 billion, started by 2 people. Imagine how many people died from the time of Adam and Eve. This is what we're talking about.
Thank you so much.
As the youth of this country, don't buy that Android phone at 1 million naira. Go and buy 2 pigs. Go and buy 2 sheep. Go and buy some chickens. After 1 year, your wealth is going to multiply. If you buy Android phone, after 1 year, it will crash. And your 1 million naira has gone. This is where prosperity is. This is what we are preaching.
The finance people will take it up with you, sir. Sir, we know the Honorable Minister of State.
Talk to them. Talk.
You know what I just mentioned to the minister?
No, sir.
I say, is he sure that I'm not going to leave here determined to go into livestock?
There you go. A convert already. So, fantastic. Honorable Ajimobi, just quickly before we release the Honorable Minister of Industry. So when we're talking about this opportunity and we're looking at the continent of Africa, how do you figure that we can, begin to project Africa's position around agricultural development as a sector now? How do we position the views of Africa on the global stage? How do we mirror these policy decisions that have themselves thrown up, African leadership into the spotlight, and ensure that this isn't just a fluke, but it stays on the length of the way?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say to the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry that it is my failing that you haven't been warmed up to livestock and introduced to the livestock sector. I should have been doing my job better, as the SSA to the President, and please accept my apologies. I will be looking for you in the coming months to see how and what area in the livestock sector you are interested in setting up.
Apology well made and taken.
With regards to your question, I think Mr. President has taken a bold step with the creation of the ministry. Many African nations have a livestock ministry already, and with discussions and dialogues like this today, I think that is how we let the world know that Africa is making a renewed statement within the space of agriculture, and they are committed to transforming their agricultural sectors. And in order to do that, they would have to continue to have dialogues like this on the world stage. The World Food Price event coming up in Iowa, attending events like that and other events on the world stage. That is how we get our message across. And then also by taking bold steps towards transformation, mechanization, and revitalization of the sector. I think those are the steps that need to be taken by across Africa, and not just by our president.
That's right. Honorable Minister of State, Senator John Owen, I know I need to let you go, but I beg you, I want to ask one more question. The Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones program, the way you put it out, incidentally has about 4 critical players within that mix: the African Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, and then the UK, DIT involved in it. Not taking away the federal government of Nigeria and the states. But this is the key: the private sector that is being wooed into that space to invest how do we encourage them, particularly for those who have even been brought into the ecosystem? They've put the resources down and they're positioning. How can policy sit and stay with them, and what commitments would you be making even as a minister to support and ensure that their interests, are in themselves protected? I say that because most times the private sector basically watches what we do to their peers to garner whether or not the environment is conducive or otherwise. I leave that with you, sir, not to say more.
Well, I think that, the greatest challenge that has always been the matter about, private sector participation is how consistent we are with our policies, policy consistency. I mean, to what extent, how often times do we change the rules at the middle of the game? I think that has always bedeviled a lot of very good intentions. By the way, that Mr. President has been, about everywhere, talking about Nigeria's readiness, for investments, and all of that. So I think that, the confidence with which, that is being received, I think that the stability, in our circumstances, in our economy and all of that, continues to be a very big incentive. But, the most fundamental is that we must remain consistent in terms of what we are doing. The fear could be that how long will it take for the present, stability to be reversed? Once there is a guarantee that that is not going to happen, I mean, investors and the private, sector will always participate because after all, I think that when you speak about the potentials of this economy, of this country, the potentials are so positive. The only thing that affects those potentials is, the other challenges, logistics challenges, agri products, getting bad and all of that, infrastructure. But once those things get solved, the huge size of our population, the dynamic, youths that we have, the big market, in itself remain positives that the private sector looks for and is going to continue to, the other thing, maybe not directly related, is that, if you go way back, during the Jonathan years, that was when the special agri processing zones thing, started. It got stalled. Why did it get stalled? It got stalled because of the disagreements over ownership between agriculture and between industry and all of that. So it's also important that maybe I use this forum to also advocate for the fact that industry must be made to play more than a passing role in terms of the implementation, because almost everything that's going to be needed to get that to work is going to come from the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. Once the agri products become available, it becomes a matter of processing. And that processing is where industry gets involved. So far, what the Ministry of Industry leadership has done is to give continuing support to that program. I mean, I was in Kaduna and I was in Calabar. We didn't say that, because we just have a passing mention. But I think that it's still quite early, for that to be appreciated. Not just so that it doesn't ultimately destroy a very brilliant program that is going to work for the Nigerian people and for country.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. I've just been told by my colleagues that I need to let you go. And fortunately, we have the Malaysian ambassador to Nigeria in the room. So he most likely, Your Excellency, you will have to replace the Honorable Minister right up here. So, Honorable Minister, you've been bailed out, sir. A round of applause for him, please. We'll just take pictures, sir. We'll just take pictures, if you don't mind. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for the minister as he leaves. The minister kept to time. We are the ones who basically were late in kickstarting, so we won't blame him. But fortunately for us, we have in the room His Excellency Ayub bin Omar, the High Commissioner of Malaysia to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's here. Your Excellency, please just join the Honorable Minister of Livestock Development up here. A round of applause for him, ladies and gentlemen. Excellency, don't worry, that is not a hot seat. So we were just having a conversation around, the steps that Nigeria has taken so far in the agricultural sector from a policy standpoint, which has thrust, the country into the spotlight, even into a leadership position on the continent of Africa, in which Nigeria is now hosting the Africa Agriculture Dialogue. This is an agenda-setting session which then translates into the main event of the World Food Prize in Des Moines, Iowa. You should know about the World Food Prize. That's the Nobel of Agriculture, What's your perspective about the way Nigeria's agricultural sector is structured vis-a-vis, what the realities in Malaysia are? I will take the liberty to remind the audience that you took, your palm seeds from here, and today, palm oil is making Malaysia really tick on the global stage. So let's hear you on your perspectives. The microphone is beside you there. Sir. Yeah, just press it.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation for inviting me to this conference. It was just actually a bit last minute, and I was informed by Dr. Sharmal here, my good friends, who are also currently managing JB Farm in Cross River State. Yes, of course, you reminded me about the history of oil palm, for Malaysia. We grew with and started with agricultural sector and mining industries in the region of 19th century. That being that we are still in the nascent state of our independence. Before the independence, the British colonial, of course, brought the seedlings from this part of West Africa, to be exact in 1870s. So they transported the seedlings from here. It's not Nigeria then. Yeah, still in the part of West Africa. Transported it to Indonesia, Java, that time then, and then to Malaya. Currently is Malaysia. So that's the history of our palm oil, and then the start of our agricultural sector in Malaysia, of course. And nowadays, the palm oil sector has been among the main contribution to our economy in the form of our GDP. It is about the third or fourth sector based on the ranking of our contribution to the GDP. And we currently produce the global production of palm oil, the second biggest in the world after Indonesia. In fact, our production of palm oil exceeding our land, then we expanded our production into Indonesia. So of course, we have so many planters in Indonesia as well. I have served Indonesia before I came to Nigeria. So that's the development and of our oil palm. And of course, people say, yeah, it started from Africa. We share the common weather, common climate, and I think this very huge potential for the development of palm oil in Africa, in particular Nigeria as well, since I'm also serving here. And also appreciate the contribution of some private sectors, including the one that Dr. Sharmal is currently managing the JB farm in Cross River State. I have visited the Cross River State, and I saw huge potential for the development of palm oil industry in this country, in Nigeria. In fact, we support the Renewed Hope agenda propelled by the President of Nigeria. I spoke with the President when I first presented my credential that we are trying our best, Malaysia's contribution in this sector. So that's the introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for His Excellency. I think at this juncture, Honorable Minister of Livestock Development, you want to work your magic and see how His Excellency, His Excellency also can be converted into the livestock sector because you had worked your magic on the Honorable Minister of Trade earlier on. But I'm going to give you the opportunity now, Honorable Minister of Livestock, to basically give us, I think before you go on to give your remarks, ministerial, agenda setting remarks, we want you to please put it in context how you think Malaysia and Nigeria, and indeed Africa can leverage, its capacities to advance the livestock sector in Nigeria. I know that the oil palm itself can feed into somewhere within the livestock ecosystem, but I'm not the expert here, so you are. So let's hear you.
Thank you. I think what we need to learn from the Malaysian experience is, number one, is to have a national focus on whatever you have chosen to do. To have that national focus is key. And then the second one, it should be science and research driven. Because that's precisely what Malaysia did when they stumbled on the palm kernel, or whatever you call it. And as of today, like you pointed out, it is being traded the world over. They are the second largest producer. And it is basically a focus of the economy in Malaysia. So many things are happening. The service sector is there, the industrial sector is there, of course, Petronas is there, all of them, a whole mix. But there is no point at which, after the discovery of oil, agriculture, or other aspects of the economy were neglected, like the experience we've had in this country. Now, what we are similarly doing in this country today under the livestock transformation is to also have our eyes on the ball, to get focused as part of our national dream to transform the livestock sector into a modern, vibrant, resilient, and globally competitive sector, so that we can take our rightful place in the Community of Nations, that where livestock is today driving the economic transformations of those countries. This is what we are doing. How are we doing it? We have already crafted a national livestock growth acceleration strategy that is going to form now the basis of that special focus that we are going to have on livestock transformation. And that is to say that what we have today as the traditional form of livestock animal husbandry is not sustainable. It is rich, it is prone to crisis, very suboptimal performance, and it's restricted. So therefore, we need to transform that sector into a modern one, as I have defined. And how do we do that? Out of the NL gas we have crafted out, we have 10 pillars. That is going to support that transformation. Topmost on the pillars, if I can just bore you with 3. Number 1 is feed and fodder. Now in feed and fodder again, the PKC is there, palm kernel cake. It's a very, very good livestock feed material that today I've actually addressed with the organized sector who are doing the PKC. We have had several conversations with them. They are going to improve on the packaging and the presentation of the PKC for livestock feed. It is very, very important. We have recognized it. I personally have been buying it over the years to feed my cattle with it. Number two, what we are looking at that transformation is the issue of health and disease management. It's very, very important we get assured that because it borders on public health. Therefore, the meat you are eating, the milk you are drinking must come from animals that are well fed, whose health and comfort are key in terms of the management of that husbandry. Number three, we are looking at genetic improvement. The genetics we have today are limited in terms of performance and productivity. Therefore, we're injecting superior genetic materials so that we can leapfrog the productivity of our cows in terms of weight gain, daily weight gain, in terms of carcass weight, in terms of also milk yield. From 2 liters per day, averagely for the Nigerian indigenous cow, we want to see them to leapfrog to about 20-25 liters per day. And that's what we require because, again, you are talking about how much are we importing into the country in terms of dairy. We are spending almost $1.5 billion to import dairy products in the country. Looking at the size of our livestock, looking at our land resources, looking at our market size, we need to do better than that. That's what we're looking at. So therefore, well, there are opportunities. And in fact, yesterday we were talking with somebody who is saying that actually there are opportunities that we can also export certain things to Malaysia. I don't want to mention it here, but now that His Excellency is here, we will have opportunity to discuss and see what can we get from Malaysia, what can Malaysia get from Nigeria to strengthen a global South cooperation. And I think there are opportunities here for us to synergize and see how we can assist each other in terms of the transformation of both of our economies.
Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the art of the deal. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Your Excellency, do you have any feedback on that? Are you game? Are you ready to engage and to see how we can get partnerships off the ground?
Yes, of course, Malaysia has been basically helping our global South. Our policy, for example, on the South-South cooperation and has been undertaken since almost 30 years ago. You know, we have been assisting our fellow developing countries in the many kind of technical assistance. This assistance has been undertaken until now. They comes under Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program. Maybe you have heard we have been providing our assistance, our technical knowledge to most of the government offices in the Africa, in particular in Nigeria as well, in this case in agricultural sector. So
the answer is yes, you're ready to deal. Yeah. You're ready to partner with us.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Please, a round of applause, because we just had to seal it here. There's no point, waiting till later. Honorable Ajimobi, this is your slot, and we're about to wrap this up. How do you see, what are you going to take back to His Excellency the President as outcomes from here?
Well, quite a few good outcomes, and the prospect of forming a new relationship with Malaysia, between Malaysia and Nigeria. Yes.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the panel. I've just had the profound, privilege of overseeing, star-studded in every sense. They're going to rise now and pose for the picture, and then we would have called this a wrap. Please rise, sirs. And a round of applause to this panel, please. So while that is going on, we will go straight into the business of the day. We had to do what we've just done because of the need to let the Honorable Minister of Industry off the hook in order for him to make his travel. Excellencies, Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to recognize a few persons who we have in the House. In addition to the dignitaries that have just left this fireside session, we also have representatives of the partners of this event. HEFA International, is the representative of HEFA here? Who's representing HEFA International? These are our partners for this event. Solidaridad, I believe, is here. Leadway Assurance, we have you. The Danish government, Victoria. Hello, Victoria. I can see you're into a whole lot. Your seat is up here as a partner, please. Please clap for her while she's, give her a round of applause as she's moving up to take her seat. Kia Group, Kia Africa Group is a representative of Kia Africa Group here. Barrister Ben Hiobe, the chairman of the group. Please take your seat up front. The National Agricultural Insurance Corporation is Honorable Umar here representing, yes, the MD CEO. You're welcome. Please, a round of applause for him. Honorable Umar, I understand you were a member of the National Assembly at some point, I believe. Excellent. So you come into this agricultural space with a lot of legislative know-how, and we're looking to you to jumpstart things for us from that standpoint. Is Jill Farms and Equipment here? Dr. Ayode Akere. Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. Excellencies, we have a welcome and sectoral framing remark slated for about now. It's going to be undertaken by the Honorable Minister for Livestock Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in the person of Idi Mukhtar Meiha. Before he comes up, just hold. You saw a bit of him, just now. This is a man who wears two caps. He sits on the two sides, or rather straddles, will I say, that fine line between the private and the public sector in agriculture, in particular livestock. He is himself a farmer. Can I have a round of applause? Great farmers. Great farmers. No farmer. Okay, because the Afan president is sitting right in front of us here. If you, his people, don't account for him, then I don't know what we would say or back him up. That's one side of the minister. The second is that he is the pioneer minister of, and I want to quote him, the youngest livestock ministry on the continent of Africa. And in doing this, he has really, really laid out a profound, strategic plan for the sector to take the livestock sector from a $32 billion denominated, sector in terms of its contribution to Nigeria's GDP to a $74 billion sector in 10 years. The National Livestock Growth Acceleration Strategy, please, if you want to clap, go ahead and clap. The National Livestock Growth Acceleration Strategy that he had talked about over a stretch of 10 years with 10 pillars, to direct its implementation is his brainchild. He is overseeing that implementation. He is driving, that policy reform in that sector. And ladies and gentlemen, I happen to have been involved with him on Monday. I was there in the evening of Monday when, sectoral players basically were conferring on Mr. President an award for creating the livestock ministry. What struck me was how the minister was able to connect with the folks in the room. Are the farmers here? The association chairman is here, the president is here, right? Raji Bulama, you will bear me out. I personally was taken aback by the way and manner that I couldn't recognize the minister in the midst of the folks, all right? That's the truth. I was looking out for him, I couldn't really see him, and I know him, When they brought the regalia and they put it on him, and then we had that staff, His Excellency, the Honorable Minister now curved his leg around the... I was taken aback. I mean, it was just fantastic. But what am I saying? In his leadership of the ministry, he is hands-on, he is involved, he leads up front, just like his, president. And I want to tell you that we are really, really, fortunate to have this man overseeing the livestock ministry of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Given all of the challenges that the livestock ministry has, think about the farmer header crisis, all of those challenges in there. He's gone right into the mix and is fixing these by the day. I know the testimonies that I'm receiving, from industry players. And mark my words, I think Nigeria is fortunate. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege of calling up my minister, the Honorable Minister of Livestock Development, in the person of Idi Mukhtar Meha. A round of applause for him, please. He is going to deliver a welcome and sectoral framing remark for this event. Honorable Minister, sir.
Sit down, please. Sit down, please. Thank you. Members of the diplomatic corps here present, representatives of state governors, presidents of farmer associations here present, our partners, the development partners here present, the Senior Special Assistant to the President of Livestock. There are other farmers here, Mr. Richard, I'm not the only one. One of the biggest farmers around is Mr. Jerry and his team. They are all here. We've been here with them since yesterday. Thank you very much for coming. Pastoral organizations, cattlemen here present. I don't want to use herders because that is a different terminology altogether. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, it is my honor and great pleasure to welcome you all to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. On behalf of His Excellency, Mr. President, and the good people of Nigeria, I extend our heartfelt appreciation to the African Agriculture Dialogue Governing Board, the African Development Bank, and our Eastern Development partners for convening this timely and strategic platform on African soil. This gathering could not have come at a more defining moment for our continent. For the first time, the African Agriculture Dialogue is being held here on African soil in Abuja, right here in Nigeria, symbolizing our continent's readiness to lead global agricultural conversations and transformation. not from the sidelines, but from the center of influence for innovation and high impact. Across the continent, we are witnessing a convergence of opportunities and challenges that call for bold leadership and strategic investment. From climate shocks to market disruptions, from rising input costs to conflicts that strain food systems, the message is clear. Africa must take charge of its agricultural destiny. Our farmers and cattlemen remain the backbone of our economies, yet their potential is too often constrained by limited access to finance, technology, and infrastructure. Unlocking finance for agricultural transformation, therefore, is not merely a policy aspiration. It is an economic imperative and a social necessity. It has to happen. Under the visionary leadership of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Nigeria is rewriting the story of agriculture through bold reforms that place food security at the very heart of national development. The declaration of state of emergency on agriculture and food security was not a ceremonial gesture. It was a clarion call to action. It set the tone for a transformation that prioritizes production, investment, and inclusion. In alignment with this vision, the government established the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, a decisive step to unlock the full potential of Nigeria's livestock economy, promote peaceful coexistence between farmers and herders, and harness livestock contribution to the GDP, create employment and nutrition security. Complementing this is the recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture, designed to strengthen the financial backbone of rural enterprises and empower agripreneurs across the value chains. Together, these reforms are laying a very firm foundation for agribusiness-led transformation, one that resonates powerfully with the theme of this dialogue. Across Africa, livestock is more than an economic activity. It is identity, culture, and sustenance. Yet, financing gaps, weak infrastructure, and fragmented markets have constrained its full impact. This is why platforms like the AAD are indispensable. They help forge partnerships that can de-risk agricultural lending, attract blended finance, and promote sustainable investments across livestock and allied value chains. We envision a future where African herders and ranchers have access to affordable credit, where pastoral systems are modernized through innovation, ranching, and where livestock drives industrial growth through dairy processing, red meat processing, leatherwork production, and feed and fodder manufacturing. Distinguished delegates, unlocking finance for agricultural transformation requires more than resources. It demands trust, confidence, coordination, and a shared commitment to Africa's collective progress. We must align public policy with private capital, strengthen regional trade under the African Continental Free Trade Zone, and create enabling environments that attract investments while protecting smallholders, small players. Nigeria stands ready to collaborate with African neighbors and global partners to design financing models that are inclusive, climate smart, and youth-centered and youth-driven. As we gather here in Abuja, the heart of Africa's most populous nation, let us remember that true transformation begins with shared conviction. The task before us is clear: to turn conversations into commitments and commitments into measurable changes across our communities. Let this dialogue, the African Agriculture Dialogue, mark the dawn of a new era where Africa not only feeds itself, but feeds the world, where our farmers and herders are not seen as vulnerable populations, but as entrepreneurs and investors in the continent's shared prosperity. On behalf of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I once again welcome you to the AAD 2025 and wish you fruitful, productive, and impactful deliberations. Welcome, welcome. Karibu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that's what we have, or that's who we have in that role as Minister of Livestock Development for Nigeria. Incidentally, he just returned from FAO recently and has already started engaging and leading on the front line, you know, at the global stage. We have a very interesting presentation to put forward at this point. It is a digital parametric insurance platform, one which basically takes the protection and securitization really of your investments in the agricultural sector to another level, onto the digital level. It's going to be done by a set of folks that I have been, you know, engaging with lately. I see that we have Extension Africa there. No, it's a Rex Digital Parametric Insurance Platform presentation, and I will be calling on Mr. Abdul. Is he in the house? Representative of Rex Insurance. I think I heard he was here. Is he here? Mr. Abdullah Jibola, is he here? Oh, beautiful, please. Do we have it queued? ICT, can you confirm? We're good? Okay, that's fine. So, Mr. Jibola, please come up.
The Rex Digital Parametric Insurance.
Hold it. The
Rex.
man is not here. Don't introduce it ahead of him. Please, let's give him a round of applause. And I've just been told that tea is also served. We just can grab something while, you know, Abdul is doing his thing. Take over, Abdul.
Introducing the Rex Digital Parametric Insurance Platform.
Thank you very much.
A smart, simple solution that protects farmers, agribusinesses, and governments from climate risks. With this platform, farmers are onboarded digitally, farmlands mapped with precision, and groups visualized on geospatial maps. Policies generate instantly, payouts trigger transparently, and claims move fast. No paperwork, no delays. But Rex goes beyond insurance. Our mobile app delivers weather alerts, early warnings, and sustainable farming advice, helping farmers make better decisions before disaster strikes. This is more than insurance. It's a safety net for farmers, a policy tool for governments, and a path to resilience in a changing climate. Rex Insurance, protecting today, securing tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. We all know that there are systemic issues that face Nigerian agriculture, you know, from infrastructural issues, literacy level of the bulk of the smallholder farmers, and all of that. And more importantly, climate risk, which is a major issue nowadays. Now, the problem with these systemic issues is that they increase the perceived risk and actual risk involved in agriculture, make it difficult for finance to flow into the space, and then at the end of the day, also make it very expensive for us insurance to price risk and for us to, for the farmers to afford insurance or, you know, other risk transfer solutions. And so we've innovated around these systemic issues, and use that to develop this platform. The key offerings are, helps price smartly and transparently, taking weather parameters, weather information, location, specific information, and the history of all of these places into consideration in pricing. We also have embedded hybrid monitoring systems, so both boots on ground, working with some partners, as well as remote monitoring systems to ensure that this cost of monitoring is also lowered. We've also embedded digital advisory and extension services
Introducing the
to ensure that information on weather and all of those little things that make it easier for the farmers to be more productive is rapidly deployed to them. And finally, claims and, the claims process is seamless. And farmers have information at all times. And not only farmers, those who might be sponsoring the, financiers, farmers, brokers, and all stakeholders involved in the agricultural process. Thank you very much.
Does anyone want to ask Abdul anything? You want to say anything to him? No, he's on the spot now. So, Abdullah, I'm going to ask you. In practical terms, for those who are in the space, the guys that are looking at me, the farmers themselves, how does this work? Let them know, or let us know, all right?
Okay, if I'm just to walk through the process, it's as simple as introducing your farmers or group of farmers to us. They're onboarded digitally, remotely if we have to. Of course, there needs to be a verification. This can also be done remotely. After that is done, it's easy to price, using all of the information available to us as far as whether the location, the crop or commodity to be, planted, etc. All of that is taken into consideration and transparently helps us price that risk. I say transparently because it's possible that the farmers do not want a particular risk. For areas that are not flood prone, we might choose to disaggregate and take out the flood component, especially when it's clear that that place will not, can never be flooded, essentially. After that is done, the farmers are onboarded, the risk is properly priced, like I said, and afterwards, insurance cover starts. And along the line, the farmers continue to receive. They can go onto the platform to remotely see what the weather situation etc. is like. Farmers receive regular information, are updated every time as far as what is happening on the field is concerned. Alerted about rainfall, so they can, things as simple as fertilizer application at the right time. If you know that there'll be a heavy deluge, you don't need to apply fertilizer just before it, so it doesn't get washed off. So all of this information is passed to the farmers. And as well, we also have boots on ground that would also help push some of this critical information to these farmers, extension services, etc. And at the end of the day, when it's time for claims, because of even though it's a hybrid solution, it's parametric first. It's easy to quickly push out claims that are transparently monitored. Everybody knows when claims have occurred, and payouts are immediately pushed out to the farmers. Thank you very much.
I have some few questions for you. Mr. Insurance.
Thank you, sir.
I want to know what plan your firm had for the local pastoralists. As you know, by nature of their business, they are not being covered by insurance. So what plan have you in your organization to capture them?
Thank you for asking. It's just coincidental that we are currently running an index-based livestock insurance pilot at the moment in Adamawa, Sokoto, Bauchi, and Plateau states. The program is sponsored by one of our investors, and Leadway Insurance, Rex, and Naik, and a few other players have formed a consortium to offer this. Now, what this index-based livestock does essentially is to consider the high mobility of these pastoralists and ensure that their risks are covered, especially as related to fodder availability. If you consider the seasonal variations and, dry seasons and all of that in Nigeria. And so when there's no fodder or pasture available, the farmers are compensated to be able to buy feed for their animals. And this does two things. It also means that they don't move about so much, because in moving about, they're exposed to other risks, conflicts with farmers, as well as, some of those security challenges that they face. So we've been able to provide. We're currently piloting. It flagged off a few weeks ago, but the start date for the pilot was 1st of October, and a second iteration that will cover more states will happen next year. Thank you very much.
Please give him a round of applause. Thank you so much, Abdul. Honorable Minister, SSA, to the President, I know we're supposed to wrap this up very quickly, but please permit me to call up a gentleman that has actually done what we're looking to achieve across the sector and across the continent. In that regard, I'm talking about a deal that has just been sealed. Mega in every sense. The guy behind it, Chuka Modi, where's he? Where's he? Excellent, yeah. Chuka, please give him a round of applause. While folks are taking snacks, I would want the ushers to quickly tell them that they've got to come in and listen to what's going on here. We've got to wrap this up very quickly. I think I can trust Chuka to speak to a few slides. 2 slides? 2, fantastic. We want to hear the practicalities behind the art of the deal. Very quickly. The minister has to travel later tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, but I have to make that point here. So we're running against the clock.
Yes, I have. When do you want me to start? Okay, I presume there are no slides, so I'll just run through it. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chuka Modi. I'm the CEO of LLX PLC, which is listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Given the short notice, I'd like to go through the modalities of what we've done, speak to the policy initiatives of the federal government of Nigeria, and actually explain and talk through the structure of our transaction and what we've tried to achieve. I was asked to speak about the nature of funding for an agro-transaction of scale in Nigeria. What we've done at LLX PLC is we've closed a transaction with the Tolum Group and Dufil, which I think some gentlemen from Malaysia will be familiar with in terms of names. It's a $150 billion acquisition of an oil palm plantation and operation in Edo State. So what LLX does is we're a diversified Nigerian agribusiness. LLX started in 2019 in Nigeria with oil palm in Edo State, 2,400 hectares. We have property in Enugu State, 3,700 hectares for the cultivation of rice and short cycle cash crops. We've also secured land in Ondo State and Ekiti State. The growth plan of LLX was to move in 2 general directions, and it's multi-pronged strategy. One is organic growth, to slowly grow our land, increase our land bank, and grow organically. And the second strategy was by M&A, to find suitable transactions to scale up the business and achieve food security, which is the ultimate aim for what we want to do in Nigeria. So we're focused on two things. We're focused on cash crops, edible oils, oil palm, and we're focused on livestock. Our livestock plans have been long-term, given that we've been here since 2019, and we've slowly tried to grow organically. But I'd like to say that I think there's a framework in which we fit in with the Nigerian livestock master plan. And what we try to do is be as diversified as we can and try to be agile in terms of aligning with whatever the government policy is if we feel it's compatible with our long-term growth plans. In terms of what we're trying to do, if you go back to the last slide, I think what we want to talk about is in terms of how do you achieve a transaction of this scale and how do you manage transactions of this scale. I think the key thing to have is expertise in your top management. The next slide. I think the capacity of what you want to do if you want to fund it. So I will speak to one of our operations in Enugu State. It's the Adani Staple Crop Processing Zone, which we've developed over the last 4 years. It was a formerly moribund state operation, which we decided to invest in partnership with the state. The next slide, please. It's a significant asset. It has a small dam, concrete diversion dam, and 15 kilometers of irrigation, and it's mostly irrigated. So what we're doing is fundraising to scale up that operation and also scale up the other operations that we have across the south and southwest of Nigeria. Next slide, please. But that also is in line with our diversification strategy. So our second operation is 2,400 hectares of land in Edo State, where we have developed from scratch an oil palm operation. We've installed a 5-ton mill, and that is also the site of our livestock operation. So we've started on cattle and a piggery. We have a strategy to increase our cattle head to 10,000 head by the second quarter of next year, and to do 50,000 tons of pork by the end of by the fourth quarter of next year. The plan is one of scale. We want to be the largest cattle feedlot and diversified livestock operation in sub-Saharan West Africa, and we think this is actually very possible given what we started doing already. I think we had started this before the Nigerian National Livestock Master Plan, but our full intention is, given that the minister is here, the special advisor is here, we've had a conversation to start with already, and I think we can certainly align our plans with government policy. Next slide, please. And if you go to the next slide, what I want to talk to is increasing global demand in palm oil, why we're doing a deal of this scale. The next slide. And I think we're doing two things. It's import substitution, and it's food sustainability, and knowing there's a significant market in Nigeria. If you go to the next slide, please. I'm cognizant of the time factor here, and that we have to respect the time of the minister here. So if you go to the last slide, I'll try to understand what it does, or what it entails to fund a transaction of this size. Is you have to be aligned with government policy and have agency expertise. You need to have key end users who are consuming the products that you plan to use. And you need to have key finance partners that understand the nature of the macro picture in Nigeria and funding a transaction like this. I think it helps that we're listed, so we're listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So it means we're raising new equity from the public markets, and that is diversified. We're aligned with, I think, DFIs, developmental financial institutions, that understand the nature of concessionary lending and developmental lending. We have in the past taken CBN facilities, so I think it is important that there's government policy from the framework of dealing with the private sector, so they understand the nature of financing that we want. In a 23% inflationary macro environment, it is important that the government understands that industry needs, to some degree, to have mitigation for their financial requirements. We've taken some concessionary loans from the CBN, so I should say thank you very much for that to the federal government representatives, because they understand it is important that they support private enterprise in that way. Take your time. Yeah. We also work with local Nigerian banks. The First City Monument Bank has been a great supporter of ours with CBN concessionary financing. But also, I think it's important to understand that one has to engage with the government, understand the policy environment, and have a long-term strategy that is beneficial from a commercial point of view. I think I wanted to talk through the basics of what we're doing, and happy to take questions from the audience if anyone wants to ask any questions. Yes, madam. I think you might have to raise your voice because I don't think we have a microphone here. Good morning. You're from the center? Yes. Let me understand your question. In terms of, really, okay, microphone is coming up.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. My name is Gift Zoe. I'm from Amdora Youth Impact Initiative, a youth-centered organization. And you've shared beautifully what you do. And I want to know, if we come to you with our youth organization, will you be willing to share this with them? Because I know that there are many people that will want to hear this, especially the youth. So that's my question.
Okay. Let me answer the question, and you can make me understand if I've answered it properly. So from the point of view of impact, we're a commercial organization. We're a for-profit organization. We have shareholders. There are extension programs we engage with. The state governments we engage with. But in terms of impact, there's training, there's extension programs. So the impact of the youth is to a large degree indirect because everything we do is linked to the commercial programs that we engage in. We have CSR programs for our local communities, but everything we do from training is impact driven but commercially led. So when you say, can we engage with the youth? Certainly from a training perspective, from a transfer of knowledge perspective, yes, without question, that's one of our key CSR pillars.
So how do we engage? How do we how do we get that part, the training for the youth?
Well, one, we have a head of CSR, so we have a CSR program where we train youths, we do engagement with the communities. And so if you contact our CSR department, and you can get my details after this meeting, there's a structured framework for us to engage in CSR with the general public and youth organizations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Microphone over here, please.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. My name is Nwo Kingsley, the President Youth for Agriculture Initiative. Just a little background. I've had your presentation. It's really attractive and I believe it's real. But there's a opportunity I want to share with you.
Do you have a question? I'm conscious that there's a lot of time that we're taking off of people.
Okay, the question I want to ask is that
yes.
you have a plan to use apiculture as a sustainable strategy for pollination in your plant, which also will improve the yield of your crops.
Okay.
And also increase the sustainable means of livelihood.
Microphone. Okay, I'll take that question, but someone put his hand up for another question. Could we take the microphone to him, please, so we can take more than one question at a time? But I've noted your question about apiculture. To the gentleman.
Hi there, Dr. Sharma Pereira. I just wanted to check with regards to your vision, how much further are you thinking of going forward with regards to your cattle project as well as your oil palm project and the other things that you're doing? What's the game plan?
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take these two questions and I'll take any further questions if there are any. On apiculture, we had a short-term pilot program which we're currently about to start implementing. So I cannot say it is part of our long-term strategy. Our long-term strategy depends on the tests we carry out and the pilots we carry out. And whatever the results of that, then we will decide whether to incorporate it into our long-term strategy. That said, the reason we're doing this is because we've seen it successfully happen with pollination in other environments, but we have to understand and figure out if it works for our particular environment. So I think we'll be able to speak to that during the course of the next few quarters when we finish our pilot program and we find out the results. I hope that answers your question. Yes, thank you. When you say in terms of vision for, do you mean cattle specifically or livestock in general? Okay. Could you stay close by with the microphone just in case there are other questions? So I'll say two things. From a food security point of view, there's a reason we've diversified into livestock because very simply it's high cost, and from the point of view of yields in Nigeria, we're not as optimal as we could be. In terms of consumption, we're very low down on the scale compared to any OECD country. And I think if we can scale up in terms of productivity, in terms of yields, then we can achieve economies of scale in terms of reducing cost reduction, price reduction, and food security. So when you say what is our vision is to achieve a degree of food security and sustainability for the entire nation. And I think if we can achieve those economies of scale in one area, we can achieve it generally around the entire country. So we're about to start a feedlot in cattle, and we started our piggery program already. In terms of scale, we think even if we become the biggest in sub-Saharan Africa, which is our expectation inside the next 18 months, we still think there's a lot of scope for growth within Nigeria and the West African sub-region. So in terms of scale, we want to satisfy what we think are the food requirements in the sub-region, and that I don't think can be done inside the next 18 to 24 to 36 months. It's a long-term program and a long-term vision. I know that's a general answer. Do you have a specific question you'd like me to address?
No, and also your oil palm vision?
Oil palm vision, in a general sense, I think, so Nigeria is still a net importer of oil palm. We acquired 2,400 hectares for cultivation in Edo State. Acquisition takes us to 20,000 hectares inside the next 18 months, with 6,000 hectares fruiting already. So we've scaled up very, very, very significantly. But even if we doubled production every year for the next 5 years, Nigeria would still import palm oil. I mean, there are two factors. One is increasing consumption, and one is the increase in population. So there's a significant amount of pressure on consumption. So I think there are 3-4 institutions at our scale in Nigeria, but I don't see us as being in competition. I see them as complementary institutions, because even if we all double production, there would still be scope for growth in the Nigerian environment. So I think in terms of Nigeria and oil palm, the scope is very, very significant, and we're still net importers of palm oil into Nigeria. So in terms of vision, it is to have complete food security for Nigeria in relation to palm oil, industrial uses and food uses, where we get to the point where we don't have to import any further. In a general sense, that's, in a nutshell, that's the answer to that. Happy with the answer? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. Unless there are more questions.
Yeah, so I want you to sit.
Yeah.
The Naid guy is going to talk about insurance and the risking.
Okay.
Then I want you to be part of the panel.
Okay, no problem.
So just sit.
Okay, good.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't mind me for being selfish. I don't want him to run away. So I've asked him to sit here. We have a panel that's going to be constituted soon. The presenter is in the room. I want to very quickly call him up. Most folks, I don't know what's happening today. Most folks are having to travel. But I think it also speaks to the fact that we came from the 29th and 30th to the 7th and 8th. We don't blame folks. It's us. The session that I'm trying to call up now, if tea break will permit, is de-risking at scale, catalyzing agricultural finance. The anchor for that, who's going to make a presentation, is Honorable Yazid Shehu Umar Dan Fulani, the Managing Director, CEO of Nigeria Agricultural Insurance Corporation, NAIC. He is here represented by Honorable Umar, the Executive Director of NAIC. Honorable Umar, please. For those who are in the hall and are not engaging in the tea break, please a round of applause for Honorable Umar.
There's nothing like presentation. It's not a presentation, it's a speech and catalyst. Yes. The Honorable Minister, the representative of Mr. President, members of Diplomatic Corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the risks and scale catalyzing agricultural financing in Africa, especially in Nigeria. One, concept of the risking and scale unlocking agricultural financing through the risk agriculture, current initiative, what more can be done, and recommendations. Number one, concept of the risking at scale. The risking at a scale refers as taking strategic action to reduce or share the risks involved in investing or lending, so that banks, insurance, private investors feel confidence enough to participate. It goes beyond isolated effort by targeting systematic change, but reaching thousands or millions of farmers across the different value chains and regions. The goal is to transform the agricultural sector into a viable financing-ready space where lending and investment in agriculture become not only possible, but commercially sustainable at national scale. The Nigeria Agricultural Insurance Corporation serves as a catalyst for agricultural financing, bridging the gap between policy and productivity, between risks and investment. Through its insurance mechanism, NAIC able to finance institutional agribusiness and development partners to engage with agricultural sector confidently. When it reaches its share, it migrates capital flow. When farmers are protected, productivity rise. And when losses are contained, sustainability becomes achievable. Unlocking agricultural financing through de-risking. Nigeria agricultural sector contributes 25.18% of Nigerian GDP in 2023. However, the sector received only 5.9% of total bank credit. This implies that agriculture drives the economy but unfunded. Why so little credit? Bank perceived agriculture as high risk due to the climate variability, increase in indices of flood, dry, spells, drought, price volatility, unpredictable, price slower market access, weak collateral, informal low titles, low documentations. Risks in agriculture. In agriculture, risks can come from unpredictable weather, drought, flood, climate risks, failing crop price after harvest, prices risks, pests and disease, increases incidence of violence, conflict, production risks, poor market access, absence of value additional and weak supply chain leakages, market risks, lack of collateral, assets, credits, financial risks,
weak infrastructure, poor enable environment, sudden change in policies, analysis risks. Note, no financial institution will want to lend to a farmer facing all those risks unless probability of those risks catalyzing it reduced to the barest minimum. Therefore, the risking is what allows lenders, insurance, investors to stop in because the risk is now more predictable and backed up by safety needs. Current initiative. Insurance, e.g. the implementation of Nigeria Agricultural Insurance Corporation was established through NAIC Act number 89, Law of the Federation of Federal Republic of Nigeria 2024, as implementation agency for Nigerian insurance schemes, NAIS. The scheme was established to cater for all categories of crops, livestock, farmers, ranging from the small scale, provide for financial support to insure farmers by government in the form of 50% premium subsidy. On selecting classes of crops, livestock, this is financed by federal government, state, local government in ratio of 37.5% and 12.5% respectively. Although the scheme is voluntary, all farmers who wish to secure their investment, it is, however, compulsory for agricultural projects financed through loans, credit facility from all lending institutions in Nigeria. The cooperation policies are adequate and they are backed up by the strong reinsurance system. In the last 5 years, the cooperation has given cover agricultural projects worth 1 trillion insurance and about 1.25 million farmers in Nigeria. Current initiative count. Bonding insurance with agricultural input, credits. Farmers often face vicious cycle, no money, poor quality import, low yield, loan difficulties. Bundle finance break the cycle by providing a coordinated package of credit, quality input, like seed, fertilizer, and insurance. The integrated approach reduces difficult risks, improves farmers' resilience, and makes agricultural lending more attractive for financial institutions. Aggregation into cooperation. This is a strategy that involves organization, smallholder farmers into groups, to cooperatives, so that they can operate collectively rather than individual to enhance bargaining power, improve access to financing market, extension, service, and insurance while promoting collective risk sharing and greater resilience. Data technology. In the recent time, Nigeria, there have been increase in the use of GIS to register farmland, linking farmers, individual via bank verification, number BVM to reduce fraud, help identification, collateral, monitors field, and make lending and insurance more practice and less risks. What more can be done? 1, expand the pragmatic index-based insurance, improve trigger use multiple data source satellite, weather station, bundle insurance with credit of input, reduce measurement, cost, speed, claim payment, build trust, lower and administrative overheads. High risk quality, risk sharing, scheme and guarantee. Stronger, greater risk guarantee, blended risk fund. First loss layer, guarantee facility that reduce exposure for lenders may be donor, back reinsurance layer. Lower passive risk for bank, encourages more lending into less served segment of geographies. Better use of technology of data, expand geophysical farms, register, use remote sensing, drones for verification, integrating BVM or other biometric identification system, mobile, fintech tools, technology monitoring, reduce fraud, improve assessment, lower transaction, cost improve, backing and repayment. One can be done Recommendation. Strengthening the scale NAIC insurance scheme, key stakeholders, CBN, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Livestock, commercial banks, expected outline increase in agricultural lending, weather risks, coverage better assessment for smallholders, sensitization, parametric insurance, robust index triggers. Key stakeholders, Nigeria Meteorological Agency, NAIC insurance tech companies, expected outcome faster for more transparent claim, reduce basis risk, high farmers trust. To promote aggregation and outcome grower models, key stakeholder, agri-boost firms, NGOs, cooperative aggregators, expected outcome, easier financing and insurance, better input access, economics of scales, use of technology, fine tech for registration, monitoring claims. Key stakeholder, FinTech, startup, NAIC, NABIS, telecom agri-tech firms, expected outcome, low transaction costs, improved transparency, scalable solution. Introducing alternative collaboration system and reforms and tenures. Stakeholders, Federal Ministry of Lands, Federal, State, Land Registry, CBN, Bank of Agriculture, Federal and State Ministry of Agriculture, expected outcome. More smaller holders, especially women, youth, can be accessed financing, reducing difficulties in risks. Recommendations. Expanded public-private partnership and blended financing. Key stakeholders, donors, developing financing institutions, Central Bank of Nigeria, Ministry of Finance, commercial banks, insurance, expected outcomes. More capital unlock, reduce private sector, expose sustainable financing. Launch and scale crop-specific program. Key stakeholders, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Livestock, Commodity Board, banks, insurance, maintenance, stability, predictable policy environment. Key stakeholders, federal ministries, federal government, National Assembly, CBN, Ministry of Finance, expected outcome, input, invest in confidence, long-time planning to lenders and insurance. Build capacity for post-invest value. Key stakeholders, value chain actors, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Livestock, expected outcome, reduce losses, improve livestock and income. Thank you very much. May God bless you all. That's not. So you're not going. I'm going now. The Minister of Agriculture is waiting for us. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
So the director has set the tone. He has to also leave for a very urgent, reason. But we have a very star-studded panel. That's the consolation there. And again, we can see folks are returning into the room. Ushers, please help us, bring the people back. The facilitators are Chukuma Kalu, Video Climate Limited. I'm excited about this. Chukuma, where's Mr. Kalu, please? Please, who knows Chukuma Kalu? Arrest him. Bring him here. Look for Professor Toromade. He knows how to bring them back. Exactly. Dr. Andrea Rudiger, she's been seated since she came in. She's been right there. I've been looking at her. Dr. Andrea Rudiger is project manager and cluster coordinator for the transformation of agri-food systems. It's a GIZ program, and we are very, very privileged to have you in the room. Dr. Rudiger, please join the panel. Please, a round of applause for her. Mrs. Jenny Ambukieni Onya, the CEO of Neotex Belgium. She's joining us virtually. Do we have her queued? No? Yeah, because the time is, this is ahead of her schedule, right? Please confirm if she's available. We have Mr. Sridhar Satyamothi, Vice President, Capital Risk Solutions. Those are the guys from the Lloyd's of London insurance setup. I need to fill some seats. And there is one man here that I cannot allow to go without joining this panel. I think I should pull someone in here. And in that regard, the colleague from Leadway Assurance is a partner of this event. It's represented by Mr. Fatona. Is he here? Excellent. Mr. Fatona, this is your natural habitat. Where is Mr. Kalu? Oh. I should say, get up here. Professor Toromade, are you the one who brought him in? Dr. Lumide was just telling me that you're the head of the task force. Forex insurance. These are the young guys that are doing so much in this space, and I think Abdul, you need to join this. You need to join this panel. Like I was telling Mr. Fatuna, this is your natural habitat. Do we have the folks? No. All right. Our apologies to them. Later on, maybe we'll just engage with them. So here's talking to de-risking at scale. How do we catalyze agricultural finance? Oh, so we have Mrs. Jenny Ambukieni Onya, CEO, Neotex Belgium. Hi, Jenny. Great to have you. We know we pulled you up ahead of time, but I'm glad you're here. Appreciate it. Jenny is also from DR Congo, even though she has her business in Belgium. Chukuma, you're going to be facilitating this, so I'll just call on you to get going. Please do not forget the lady online. Aha. All right. And remember, you have the big heater in the room. Chuka Modi is here. You didn't hear him on the deal. You did. Oh, fantastic. So that sets the tone. Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chukuma Kalu. I'm the CEO of Video Climate, and I'll be the facilitator for this session. Just a little bit about me. I'm a climate risk and climate finance expert, and we have a very strong panel today. As mentioned by Richard, the discussion topic is de-risking at scale, catalyzing agricultural finance. So the purpose of this session basically is to showcase how large-scale de-risking instruments and partnerships can catalyze finance and investment into the agricultural space. We'll be looking at conversations about how the insurance partners, the DFIs, credit guarantee companies or providers, and public-private mechanisms can be used in addressing systemic risks from climate shocks and all the way to credit default, while stimulating inclusive agricultural growth and financing. With that being said, we are looking at two sections to this panel discussion. The first would actually take a deep dive into the understanding of risks as it pertains to agricultural financing. And then phase two of the session would actually look at the solutions that can be presented to galvanize finance and also to scale. Yes. Oh, fantastic. We have a representative from Bank of Agriculture. Salma Isa, please, you can get seated. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think with no further ado, we can get started. After the two sessions, we'll be entertaining Q&As, and then we'll look at an action takeaway in terms of commitments and solutions from the panelists on how we can move the conversation forward and get things up and running. With that being said, I would like to throw general questions to my panelists, and it goes as follows. Typically, agriculture is being seen as a very risky endeavor by financiers. From your perspective, what or which risk do you single out as the most prevalent and, preventing or inhibiting capital from entering into the agricultural market space in Africa? I'll be going in no particular order. Let me start with Mr. Fatona, my very good friend.
Thank you, Mr. Shukuma. I equally want to appreciate you for everything you are currently doing in this space, which is very innovative, especially as it relates to climate financing. And for the answer to that question, for me it's simple. I have been in this space for close to 3 decades. And one of those prevalent and systemic risks that I see that inhibits agricultural production, when you are taking a look at production agriculture, is actually the one that relates to weather and climate. And it has actually been further exacerbated by global warming and climate change. The seasons in Nigeria now, albeit as it is all over the world, is no longer the seasons that we know. So our agronomic calendar has changed from what we used to know. And we see that because of the issue of global warming and climate change, most of those weather-related risks, like flood, like incidents of pests and diseases, like dry spells and so on and so forth, are becoming more prevalent. So they are the one that inhibits or makes the most negative impact on that particular area of production agriculture. So for me, it's climate and weather risks. Thank you.
Thank you. Bank of Agric, what's your own take to that? Is it climate risk, credit risk, market risk? Which stands out for you?
Thank you very much for this question. Maybe because I'm coming from a financial institution, there are many factors, but I feel access to finance is very key. Most times you see even the private sectors that want to invest in agriculture, they find it very difficult to access funds. So funds is a key risk in growing agriculture in Africa. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Andrea, what's your take in terms of the pertinent, the one major risk in agriculture that stands out for you in terms of the intervention work that you do in Nigeria and generally GIZ in Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I represent the German corporation here today, and we work a lot around improving farmers' access to finance. We understand that limited access to finance is one of the major barriers to agricultural development in Nigeria, but also on the continent. And if I had to name just one single factor, for me it's the perception of unpredictable risk. And of course that goes down to climate shocks, to price volatility, and that is combined with a lack of reliable collateral. 80% of smallholder farmers in Africa do not have formal collateral, such as titled land or stored assets, and that makes lenders fear defaults even when farmers are otherwise credit-worthy.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Chuka, you gave us a very beautiful presentation in terms of the investment that went into Ella Lakes. And now we're talking about risks. So how, when you were doing that investment tie-in, what was the major risk that stood out for you?
I think everything they've mentioned from the point of view of access to finance, lack of collateral, but some of them are issues for smallholder farms which don't affect us. But I think from an operational perspective, as one running an operation, there's climate, which is one of those unpredictable ones you cannot legislate for, but also the human factor, this human capacity and expertise and just how it affects your operations, and that's a very difficult situation to manage.
Okay. Mr. Abdul, you equally gave us a presentation on your digital platform, parametric platform. So the question equally goes to you. What stood out or what stands out for you in terms of the number one risk that affects agricultural financing in the space you operate?
I would agree, lean towards what Mr. Fatona said. Climate risks are particularly an issue for us, especially in the insurance space. And this is because there's really little you can do about it, just to put it straight. Floods, drought, we can't control it, and it wreaks particular havoc. And then more importantly, as the world gets warmer, it also increases the risks, other risks. There's more prevalence of pests and diseases, etc. And so the climate risk directly wreaks havoc, indirectly causes more problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, not leaving Mrs. Jenny out, I'll be delving into specific questions for our panelists. So I think I'll start off with Mrs. Jenny. She's the CEO of Neotex. It's an AI solution company providing data and intel to MFBs, ag insurance companies, and so on and so forth. So in the agri space proper, it would be good for you to give us an insight on how AI solutions that you use are helping in de-risking finance and on unlocking access to capital investment finance, to spur the necessary agricultural transformation that Nigeria desperately needs. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Yes, I can hear myself, so that's okay. Thank you for the question. So it's a very relevant question. So at Neotex, we are really focusing on financial risk. So we have AI-powered technology that is called Alice Livestock that uses AI, like facial recognition for animals, and credit scoring. So what we are trying to do is actually to turn cattle into trusted and verifiable digital assets. We support to reduce fraud and information gaps that we can face in the livestock industry for lenders, such as microfinance institutions, agricultural bank, and SACCOs and so on and so forth, but also insurance companies. So more credit can reach all farmers in rural area. So it helps make financing safer by creating real, reliable collateral where there was none before. So this technology, AI-powered technology, is changing the lives of small-scale farmers in Kenya now, and it gives them financial visibility, but also credibility and dignity. But it also opened access to insurance because animals' assets are now more secure, traceable, and brings more transparency to the whole livestock and dairy value chain. This is actually how we try to de-risk finance.
Okay, thank you for that submission. Okay, so moving on. The beauty of this panel is that we have supply side partners, we have demand side partners, and we have in between the DFIs that try to bridge the gaps. So I'll push this question to the Bank of Industry. The Bank of Agriculture. The Honorable Minister of State mentioned about the recapitalization of the bank. But there's still sentiments in the industry that the bank is cautious. So what are the areas that the bank is working on to change that image towards projecting a more farmer-friendly and risk-tolerant lender?
Thank you very much, but I want to debunk that nation that the bank is not friendly to the farmers. I think maybe we even have farmers here. The BOA, or Bank of Agriculture, has been very friendly to the farmers. It is over 50 years in existence. But I know we had our challenges, but what we are trying to do, we are deploying digital tools that will help in maybe delivery to be very fast, or like when we're doing manual operations. Now, everything about our operations is digitalized, from loan application to disbursement to tracking of performance to even repayment. In addition to that, we are into partnership with state governments. We are into partnership with development partners, farmer cooperative groups, even aggregators. So the relationship now is faster, and we are reaching out to more farmers, and then the impact is greater. So in addition to that, we have also developed some products that are very good to our youth. That is for financial inclusion, our youth and women. We have special products for them, and now we are reaching to the farmers. Then we are doing even capacity building for the farmers. Then even our risk framework, we have enhanced it. So we have improved our credit risk management. That also has helped us in reaching to the farmers, and then the impact is greater. Even the credit guarantees that we are talking about now, we are encouraging our farmers, because most of them don't have collateral, like somebody has mentioned. Collateral is a risk that most of our farmers, especially smallholder farmers, don't have collateral. So now we are even using NISAL, because they give 75% guarantee, so that at least more of our farmers will now get access to finance from Bank of Agriculture. In addition to 1.5 billion, right now we have also received 250 billion solely for smallholder farmers. I know some of our farmers that are here, we have started working on it, on how to do the implementation. We are starting dry season farming, which we are working with state governments and some other aggregators on that. So BOA, or Bank of Agriculture, has been farmer friendly, and we are more friendly, and we will continue to work for Nigerian farmers for food security and economic growth of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you for that very interesting and informative response. I'll move on to Dr. Andrea. Building from what you said, you mentioned tools like credit guarantees and how that is helping to de-risk finance at scale, which is our discussion topic. From an intervention point of view, what kind of tools is the GIZ looking at in layering to further expand the ecosystem of financing to smallholder farmers in the space?
Thank you for that question. And let me start by being very clear about who I'm talking about here on this panel. So in the German corporation, we have a development bank that is responsible for the financial assistance, which is the KfW. Then GIZ is implementing the technical assistance on behalf of the German government, but also the European Commission and other donors. And we provide technical assistance also for access to finance. And in our experience, blended finance and generally access to finance works best when concessional capital is combined with strong technical cooperation. So it's not just about cheaper money getting those interest rates down, but success comes when the financial product, the lending institution, and the farmers are all prepared to work together. A good example from our work is our collaboration here in Nigeria with First City Monument Bank and the MasterCard Foundation through one of our projects that's called ACFIN. We supported the bank in designing tailored financial products for smallholders and guided the process for catalytic funding from the MasterCard Foundation. And the concessional funds lowered the cost of credit for farmers, while our technical support strengthened both the bank's staff and the systems, as well as the farmer groups, including peer learning and exposure visits. And for this is a really successful collaboration, and what made it work is, on the one hand, the product fit, that the loans were well aligned to seasonal cash flows of farming. It was the capacity building element that we provided, that the bank staff gained agri-lending skills, adjusted processes, farmers improved their financial literacy and also their capacity to repay loans, and the value chain linkages that were established. So working with off-takers and cooperatives that reduced the risk and improved also, again, repayment. And then, of course, very important factor is also affordable pricing. So in this example, the lending rates were single digit. So the key lesson here is, for us and maybe for also some of you in the room, is that blended finance succeeds when concessional capital de-risks the portfolio and technical cooperation partners like GIZ make the finance viable and sustainable. And it's this combination that I think, and it's not a standalone subsidy, that channels affordable finance to smallholders at scale.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I would move to my insurance people. As you can hear from the discussion, insurance is not just considered as a risk safety net anymore. It is being projected as now an enabler of agri-finance. So, Mr. Abdul, from your own perspective, what is the posturing of REX in terms of, being the go-to point to provide risk layering solutions to catalyze finance for the likes of Bank of Industry and other financial institutions? How can that also be blended in line with what Dr. Andrea initially said?
Okay, quite simply, what we do is, I'm sure that when insurance is able to assure the financiers that all of the risks are properly managed and adequately covered, encourage them to want to lend into the space. But beyond that, Rex is also saying that, we've spoken so much about all of the systemic challenges inherent in the agri space in Nigeria. And part of what we are doing to also provide further comfort to those who would be willing to, put money into the spaces, part of what I presented earlier, which is in the digital platform, which does much more than just register or price risk, but also to give a bird's eye view of what is happening at field level to both the farmers, the people financing them, and all stakeholders within the space. That way, there's more comfort provided, and it also allows everybody to have greater contribution into how the risks are going to be managed, and we feel that way more funds will flow. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fatuna, we know that Leadway is one of the foremost and largest insurance company in Nigeria, and we know that there's been a lot of innovation in the space. We look at things like index-based insurance, and also innovative premium financing solutions. I don't know if you would like to talk a little on that and how that is enabling insurance partners to catalyze finance and not just, de-risking. So you're actually seen as a player side by side with the with the likes of the financial institutions and the banks of industries to push Bank of Agriculture, to push, capital to the right spaces.
Thank you, Mr. Kalu. First and foremost, Lead Assurance Company Limited is actually the pioneering private sector insurance company that started that underwriting agricultural risks. That was about 12 years ago. And because again, at Lead, we don't see agricultural insurance as only a protective layer. We usually see it as a way by which finance could be catalyzed, especially to smallholder farmers. That is key. And what we have equally seen along the way is that you cannot get the volumes that you need if you don't involve in various kinds of partnerships. In fact, the partnership model, both from the private sector side, from the financial side, input supplier side, digital platform sides, have gone a long way in enabling us to gain traction and making sure that agricultural insurance services that smallholder farmers are able to have access to agricultural insurance services. And on the product side, first and foremost, again, too, I want us to know that we pioneered the first index insurance product in the country. That is about 8 or 9 years ago. And by and large, we have gone ahead to grow that particular product through various kinds of partnerships, which, of course, our organization or yours have worked upon, which have gone ahead to benefit most of the smallholder farmers. Basically, the smallholder farmers are one of our major targets because they are the one that are in the greater proportion of those individuals that actually put the food on our table. And one of those things that we do at Lead is to analyze the risks of these smallholder farmers and bring up bespoke solutions that speak to their to that particular risk, especially as even had to do with access. One of the studies we conducted was that we were able to know from that particular study that one of the reasons why farmers are unable to have access, smallholder farmers really, are unable to have access to agricultural insurance is the cost of agricultural insurance. And especially at the beginning of the season when they have very small working capital, insurance is the last thing on their mind. So at that particular period in time, if you ask them to, bring out a certain sum of that particular working capital to purchase insurance, it's not on their mind at that period. Meanwhile, in the true sense of it, because of global warming and climate change, it is something they should think of before purchasing fertilizer and seed and so on and so forth. So when we saw that behavioral pattern, we now went back to the drawing board and they normally say, how do we assist the farmers in getting through this issue of access, especially as that to do with the impact of the premium payment on their working capital. So we work with partners and brought out with a solution where partners were able to pre-finance the premiums of the farmers at the beginning of the season. And that was that particular product called Pay at Harvest that Helfer International, who is one of our partners, mentioned yesterday. So with that particular product, farmers were able to get insurance at the beginning of the season. I only get to pay back at the end of the season when they have harvested their crops and equally gotten value for it. That means they have the cash on their hand. So it's at the point of that particular cash payment that will now deduct the premiums. So that particular product in itself have enabled farmers to have access to insurance and equally be able to ensure that you have financial institutions being ready to go ahead and give credit facility to this farm. Because again, one of the major issues concerning access to finance, especially when it's production agriculture, is the passive headaches, which of course to a larger extent is true. So it is, the onus is on us as players, as stakeholders, as partners, to ensure that how do we go ahead and de-risk this shade, especially as it relates to production, in order to enable farmers have access to that particular finance. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was quite insightful. Mrs. Jenny, not forgetting you, AI this, AI that, AI brings a lot to the table. We had the Honorable Minister of Livestock Development mentioning a lot of things earlier. I don't know if you stuck around to that call. And he was talking about youth, women, innovations, and so on and so forth. And you have a particular solution called, if I'm correct, Halisi. If you could just give us some insight of how that could be transformative for the livestock sector. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. So with our solution, Alliance Livestock, we are really trying to open new opportunities for credit and insurance in the livestock industry. We are using AI to make visible and verifiable as a collateral. We were discussing about how farmers are lacking collateral, but here we are actually putting on the table the fact that they already have assets which are movable that can be used as a collateral. So through our facial recognition system, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, through our facial recognition engine and data analysis, each animal gets a unique digital identity and health record. This means that the lenders and the insurers can clearly see and trust the value of a farmer herd, basically. So for the credit, it allows farmers, even those without formal banking history, to use their laptop as a recognized collateral, helping them access loan for growth and investment. But on the other way, we also have insurance. The data from Alliance makes it easier to assess the risk, to trace the animal and confirm ownership and losses, which builds confidence, which is very important in the sector for both insurers and farmers. So just to summarize a bit what we are doing with Alliance Livestock, the solution, we turn informal animal assets into trusted financial assets. We really want to unlock fairer access to finance, improving protection through insurance, and strengthening the entire livestock economy, something that we are really working and putting a lot of effort on.
Thank you for that. That seems very, very interesting. I hope Bank of Industry got that.
Bank of Agriculture.
Sorry, Bank of Agriculture. I'm so sorry I keep missing it up. So I hope you got that, and I hope you'll be looking at some form of collaborations in those fashions to see how we can provide financing to smallholder pastoralists. Last but not least, Mr. Chuka, you sit at a point, at a position where you can mobilize large-scale capital. It will be interesting to hear from you how you were able to de-risk, your odds and provide comfort to investors to, funnel monies into the Ella Lake project.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think all the answers preceding my answer were very interesting, but they're all, I think it's important to understand that there's services to the financial sector to facilitate agriculture. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them are a function of the nature of the macro environment that we're in. So whatever service you're providing in terms of monetary facilities, insurance, credit, the credit environment is a function of your macro environment and whatever monetary policy is. So if inflation is 20%, you cannot have credit below 20% because that's the cost of money. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to recognize, number one, that government policy is very important in terms of engaging with the private sector, because if you don't have proper government macro policy, you're going to have inflation going through the roof, and it is immaterial what you're trying to facilitate. If you have inflation that is not manageable, then you cannot provide proper services to any kind of government and any kind of business. So I think it's very important to understand that the private sector cannot do this all by itself, and that's very important. From our perspective, in terms of long-term growth, inflation in Nigeria is 23%. Without concessionary funding, it's impossible to borrow at those rates. Our first commercial loan was not fully commercial because it was a CBN subsidized facility. And I think those kind of interventions are very, very important on the credit side. Because we're listed, we can raise funds publicly. I think that's one of the advantages of having scale. So you're going to the public to raise equity, and equity is a more reasonable way of funding your long-term strategy. And I think that's one of the issues that I think it would be, if we figured out how to address on the macro level and at scale, how do we raise equity for small, medium-sized, medium-scale players in the sector, that would be very, very, very interesting. Because I think it's impossible to do things at scale and to aggregate them if you have interest rates that are not, at the very most, in the single digits. So I think that's an interesting conundrum for people like them to figure out how to address.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've heard your submissions. Very spot on. I think looking at macroeconomic indicators is also very, very key, which takes us to the second phase of the discussion, basically looking at solutions. You quite rightly drilled down on the conundrum of interest rates, but at the end of the day, we have to start from somewhere and then get to the destination point. So my take is, what kind of public-private partnerships, what kind of innovations, and I think a lot of these ideas here have been mentioned, can be implemented and explored so that we are seeing that shift, right? As it is now, we have a growing population. There's the issue of food emergency from the government, and then we have the private sector players that typically comes in with a lot of the innovations into the space. And we also have the development partners that are there to bridge protection gap and access to finance, speaking specifically to agriculture. So, and this is being thrown open to the panelists in no particular order. What kind of partnerships, judging from what you've heard, do you think can start evolving from the conversations that we're having in terms of, I'm getting it right now, Bank of Agriculture, going beyond the use of credit guarantees? Would you consider bundling credit guarantees with index insurance so that you have a more fully protected portfolio? We talked about blended financing, the use of concessional loans or finance to see how we can, drive down the interest as at least a short to medium term solution. And we are also looking at how do we mobilize monies from the diaspora to also come in and help in blending the cost of investments or cost of finance and so on and so forth. So judging from everything now, what's your take? Where do you think collaborations can emerge from?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I said earlier, the bank has been collaborating with many development partners and some non-organizational, like the farmer cooperatives. But in this case, the bank is looking at changing the ownership from being a government bank to making it a public-private bank. Like we are proposing that the farmers, private investors will also buy shares so that government like CBN will reduce their ownership. Because their ownership is 40%, we are looking at reducing it to 20% so that we can throw it out to the market. The farmers themselves will come in and then they will take ownership of the bank. By so doing, we are going to have more funds that will help the farmers, and then maybe even the issue of default and things like that will be less. And for the interest rate that you are talking about, maybe because we have been getting government intervention, our interest rate is friendly. Most of it, especially for the smallholder farmers, is 9%, it's single digit. I think this is the only bank that gives 9% interest rate to the farmers in Nigeria. So, but by the time we start the collaboration with maybe the the private sector, they will look at the cost of fund. So based on the cost of fund, maybe they will now determine the interest rate that will be charged on the loans to be given to the farmers. And the relationship between the bank and insurance companies, like I said, we have agreement with NISAL. And if NAIC, by our policy, it is compulsory. Every farmer must pay for insurance by NAIC. It is compulsory. We don't give loans without insurance. But we will begin to look at maybe extending it to other guarantee companies so that it will not be only NAIC that will be insuring the projects of the farmers. So I think maybe with this partnership and then talking about the blending financing, like we are even talking with AfriXim, we are expecting a facility of about $1 billion. So to the tune of about 1.5 trillion, apart from the recapitalization of 1.5 trillion by the government. So we are also talking with AfriXim. So the blending finance will also be helpful so that, because 1.5 trillion that is approved by the government plus the 250 billion given to us of recent would not be enough if we really want to make this country to be food security. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll go to my insurance part. You want to say something? Go ahead.
I mean, that's a great point, but I think it's very important to realize these things are not that simple, and doing certain things has implications for the nature of your organization. If you're inviting farmers to take equity positions in a bank, then you're necessarily commercializing the business. If it's a commercial business, you cannot give concessionary loans to anyone, even your owners. So if you say AfriXim is extending $1 billion in concessionary finance, and you turn yourself into a commercial operation, then how do you repay this if you give people concessionary loans? If you're not, I mean, they're necessarily some kind of subsidy, and a subsidy is necessarily loss-making, but it is, I mean, philosophically for the greater good, but it's the government trying to cater to aspects of its economy by trying to grow them. So I think it's important that we recognize that certain things have implications. You can't subsidize if you're wholly commercial and you're borrowing at commercial rates. And 9% may be single digit, but 9% is not sustainable in trying to grow sectors if you want to be competitive. So I think it's a complicated process. It requires a lot of thought in how we manage these things. And I think there's no silver bullet in terms of resolving these long-term strategic and policy issues. And that's just the point I wanted to make.
Thank you very much for that input. Mr. Abdulaziz, what's your take? The Bank of Industry talked about Bank of Agriculture. For the umpteenth time, Bank of Agriculture mentioned, some of the changes they're looking at making internally, even the ownership structure and, their approach to markets. Talked about, partnering with other guarantee providers outside NAIC and so on and so forth. What's your take on the private sector underwriters having partnerships with the likes of NAIC and making it work? Because we know insurance has to do with law of large numbers. When there are massive risks, it's usually a professional take to have the risk diversified and have other players on board. So what's your take on working with the likes of NAIC to push the agenda of mobilizing large-scale finance to the agricultural space?
Thank you very much. We've even gone further than thinking about it. We've started implementing. We do realize that the insurance space in Nigeria is still, agric insurance particularly, is quite small. Penetration is less than 1%. And so rather than compete with each other over what is essentially a very tiny pie, we're all collaborating now to grow the pie, to become bigger, improving access to finance by providing proper risk management service. And we started implementing in about, we're working with NAIC, Leadway, NCR, a few other players to form a consortium where we're trying to ensure some, major risks for government interventions and even for private projects in a way. For instance, the index-based livestock project insurance that I spoke about, was one financed by one of the investors, Forex Insurance. But understanding the need for collaboration, NAIC, Leadway, NCR, AICO, a few other players were brought in so that we can all work together to continue to innovate and grow the, risk protection mechanism for the industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fatuna, building on that.
Yes, I will take on. Thank you, Abdulaziz. I think you have said it all. But I equally want to add that when you take a look at ensuring or underwriting agricultural risks, I don't think one single underwriter can do it. That's one of those things we need to get into our system. That no one single underwriter can do it. The more the underwriters they have the capacity to do it, the better. Because for the private sector side, we'll be throwing a balance sheet to support that particular risk. And of course, with the partnerships coming in, there will be a lot of innovation and bespoke insurance solutions that speak to the risks of the farmers. That is the advantage in that. And like Abdulaziz said, I think the partnership, the consortium has actually been on for a long time. I know during the time of NISA equally requested for a consortium. And I know that NIC led that particular consortium and some other private sector underwriters. So for us to be able to give that particular services to those farmers that need it, the partnership is essential. And like I said, you can't grow numbers. Farmers can't have access to these products if there is no partnership, there is no collaboration, there is no strategic initiative from everybody, even from I told us of the financing we got from international donor agencies.
Recording in progress.
And I think I will call it for that particular insurance sector alone this year, if we have been able to attract about 500,000 USD to pre-finance insurance premium for farmers across various states in the Federation. So we simply can't do it without that particular collaboration and partnership with all the underwriters and the stakeholders that have the capacity to do that. Remember, we all need to be fed, and these farmers are us in the true sense of it. They are equal because, of course, they are critical to our survival anyway. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Andrea, I think this goes to you lastly before we open up questions and comment sessions from the audience. In terms of the various programs that you run, how centered is insurance, especially for smallholder farmers, seeing that it's a key de-risking instrument because your interventions don't last forever, you're usually timed. So you want in a scenario where when you exit as an implementing donor, that the right sustainability benchmarks are in place, of which insurance plays a key role. So what's your take in your various projects that you worked on, the insurance playbook for it?
Thank you for that question. I think there are two questions in there. It's one about how do we ensure sustainability as a development partner. Of course, we work on a project basis and we support partners only for a limited amount of time, and how do we ensure that the impact lasts. And I think if you ask that question, there are many elements to touch upon. It's really about working both with public and private partners to ensure that the enabling environment is there, that the public partners specifically are able to provide a steady commitment, that there's long-term investments in things like market and storage facilities and reliable climate and price risk information that is very relevant for insurance products as well, that this information is available and can be used to also tailor insurance products. And it is very important, that is often our role that we play, is in bringing these priorities from various stakeholders together to through blended finance structures that combine fair returns for financiers, through clear environmental and social impact targets for the impact investors that we're working with, but also for the donors, for development banks, and then finally, of course, affordable, predictable products for farmers. So that is very relevant. And then, of course, what is very important is that guarantees or subsidies sometimes they end with the project. So we should always ensure gradual risk transfer from donors to DFIs and then to local banks, blending in climate and impact funds and strengthening domestic insurance and reinsurance pools also, so that the protection lasts beyond the project cycle. Speaking now on the second half also of your questions, your question is about insurance specifically. Insurance for us is one important de-risking mechanism that we work with together with partners, but it is one of several de-risking mechanisms. Of course, the provision of good agricultural practices, for example, and here digital tools are also key for the future, providing that to a larger amount of farmers and really reaching farmers at scale through digital and AI-enabled advisories is one other really important and de-risking mechanism and a way to build trust with those who invest in certain value chains. But insurance, of course, tailored insurance products for the value chains that we work in are an important element for cocoa, dairy, tomato, ginger, just to name a few of the value chains that we're active in that are very commercially viable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So there we have it from our panelists. I think at this juncture, we can open it up for Q&As from the audience. So you've heard what they've said. If there are comments, questions, you are free to indicate by raise of a hand, and then once you're pointed to, you can, provide your questions. Okay. The fellow over there, I don't know if there's a mic.
Well, I'm Prince Aso Rock. My question goes to all the panelists there. I've heard from the Bank of Agric, insurance and what have you. But to an average farmer in this country currently, there is one very big problem that I've not had them touched while they are discussing. And that is the effect of climate change as it affects food production in this country. Whether north, east, west, a farmer will finish planting right now and the rain will stop. What do we do? That is the effect of climate change, because prior to this time, I'm a Westerner. In the West, we have 2 seasons, and it was constant. Today, we can't determine when rain stops or when rain starts. Therefore, no amount of fund that we might pump into agriculture to assure our food secured means we need to pay more attention to climate change. Even the headers farmers crisis that we have, if attention is paid to climate change, is going to mitigate a lot in stepping down the crisis. How? We are in September, right? We are in October right now. I can assure you that in the next 2-3 months, cattle will be looking for food to eat. The little that remains will be off. But if we advance irrigation system, not depending on rain-fed agriculture, then it means a farmer will have its confidence to be producing food throughout the year. And it then means that not waiting for rain, he will be assured of making profit in his business. Therefore, the GIZ, the insurance, when you insure and the rain stops, then you will constantly continue to insure. Therefore, mitigating on climate change effect, I think we need to delve into it, the international partners, the financial partners, to really help the farmers and agribusiness in the country so that we can assure our food system that is hitting us hard. I think we need to consider this. Then number two, the Bank of Agriculture is our bank. We know, while Madam was talking, they want to open up the space so that we can partner and then have share in that. It's a beautiful point made, because a lot of things has happened in the Bank of Agriculture, and it's now being recapitalized, and we don't want to experience the Bank of Agriculture to go back to where they are, because a lot of things happens there that is not good. However, while the farmers are, the purpose of the Bank of Agriculture know that 9% is being offered to the farmers, which is the least in the country, and that is what is going to help. I think 9% is even too much. If we want to talk of actually producing food and solve the problem of food crisis that we have in this country now, your bank is to really help the farmers. I'm an agriculturalist, I'm a farmer. In fact, because that is the role that government is going to play in making sure that the food is available for the people and the farmers are in the business constantly. Therefore, 4%, at least 4%, which the farmer will actually now know that, yes, I can now compete favorably with others who are in the other business. Today, farmers are not competing, they are in trouble, their children are running away from the business. I want the panelists to critically look into this point and see what we can do about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. I think it was answered earlier. The insurance panelist talked about the innovations that they brought to tackle a lot of climate change issues, even going as far as talking about pre-financing insurance at the start of the season so that the farmer doesn't even have to pay for insurance at planting, but can pay at harvest when they are liquid enough from sales of their harvest. Speaking about the interest rates, just like one of the panelists mentioned, there are some microeconomic indicators that make it difficult to do a lot of things, and that has given rise to the need for blending finance, looking at different instruments that can be used to reduce the incidence of high interest rates and so on and so forth. And the Bank of Agriculture also mentioned that I think in the market currently they give the best of rates. So I think that's a good starting point. There would always be room for improvement, but we need to get started somewhere, and I think we are doing a good job. The federal government has done a lot already by recapitalizing the bank. A lot of capacity building taking place, even targeted funds for smallholder farmers. So I think we're in the right direction. Hopefully, as time progresses, we would meet some of those issues that you raised.
Carlo, hold on, please. Let me just add to what you said. You see, indeed, from the insurance side, indeed, most of the insurance policies that you have are tailored to compensate for the negative impact of climatic risks and shocks. It covers the risk of flooding, covers the risk of dry spells, it covers the risk of pest and disease, which are all the outcomes of climate change and global warming, which impact negatively. And that is what and most of these products are actually designed to take care of issues that have to do with weather. Then secondly, you equally mentioned the aspect of farmers, herders not having enough pasture. There is a product, which of course my colleague equally mentioned, that was specifically designed to equally handle that, which is the index-based livestock insurance. It provides compensation for farmers where in the area where they are grazing, the pasture has been dried up as a result of the impact of global warming and climate change and so on and so forth. Be rest assured that from the insurance side, as a risk mitigation tool, we continue to take a look at what is happening in the external environment and try as much as possible collectively as a consortium of insurance experts, continue to develop those particular products. They may not be perfect, but at least just like Kalu said, it's a starting point. We are trying as much as possible to be responsive. And what we are equally doing too on the private sector side is to see this particular provision of insurance services as a way of contributing to the full security of the nation and equally strengthening our food systems. Thank you.
To also add, because we mentioned it earlier, and just to remind that part of the innovations that the consortium approach is also bringing is early warning systems. Essentially, I mean, beyond just compensating, we also realize that it's important that these risks do not crystallize. And so we can advise, working with NIMET and a few other partners, we can advise farmers on the best time to plant, the kind of varieties to plant. I mean, if we know that there's going to be early cessation of rainfall, you advise that they plant early maturing varieties, etc. And then, you know, this consortium that I forgot to say earlier, the formation of the consortium, Richard Makumbaram has been quite helpful in the, you know, bringing all of us together to make sure we work together. And all of these services are things that insurance further provides to make sure that farmers are, I mean, food is more, there's more food security in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have, okay.
Yeah, just to the point that Chuka made, you know, Madam, I was in talks with JICA. They had a two-step loan facility they wanted to bring into the country, and they were focusing on the Bank of Agriculture. But they had to be steered towards the Bank of Industry. Reason? The toxicity of your, you know, balance sheet. All right? So the movement of resources, even if it's at a commitment level in itself, I want to agree with you, you know, has an impact on the market. Banking most certainly has to do with perception, okay? So if we perceive that things are changing in that space, things are changing with the Bank of Agriculture, there is a tendency for the markets to begin to look at you favorably. But it doesn't detract from what Chuka was saying. The realities on ground, the dynamics at play, all of that needs to be balanced. And it ties into what Abdul just mentioned. We were looking at the insurance ecosystem in implementing the National Agricultural Growth Scheme and Agro-Pocket Program of the government. And we felt, okay, NAIC looks good, but NAIC is, in reality, isn't fit for purpose. So we've got to work in a way that makes it possible, and I was speaking from the government standpoint, okay, makes it possible for stakeholders, industries to have confidence in NAIC, and the best thing to do is to create a consortium. So the guys that are sitting beside you there, all of them, they're very familiar faces. They're doing this at the back end and ensuring that our farmers get protected. That's the bottom line. Once it is possible for those risks to crystallize, can we have a response that is, you know, dependable, consistent, and long-term in its outlook, you know? And that's how we begin to fix things. And I agree with everybody, the private sector, the private sector, because it learns by doing. It doesn't sit back and, you know, want to get things foisted on it. It just gets out there and gets things done. That's why I'm excited, you know, working with these folks. Thanks very much.
Okay, Mr. Olumide, just, okay. After him, sir. Thank you.
All right, thanks, distinguished panel. And I want to start on a rather different note. And my note is to commend the financial sector and the insurance sector as well, which is part of the financial sector. Quite a lot is being done in the sector. Let's be very realistic. There are a whole lot of financial products for agri that were not in the market 10 years ago. And there are a whole lot of banks, financial institutions that were not lending to agriculture long before now, and a lot of them are becoming more agri-friendlier. and sensitive to the needs of agriculture. The same thing with insurance. What Mr. Fatono mentioned about the pay-at-harvest insurance model was not here 5 years ago. That's an innovation that needs to be applauded if we can scale it. And the question about scaling now is latching on the, I love the way Abdulaziz talked about collaboration and partnership, that we're now building consortium, we're collaborating to bake a bigger cake, a bigger pie, rather than fighting over a small pie. So, you know, the question about scaling the likes of the pay-at-harvest model is what I really wanted to speak to if you have the opportunity. EFA International is the one pre-financing the premium. Can we get to a point where we have private sector anchors, off-takers that can do such pre-financing? Because EFA will not be here all the time, and the funding from EFA will not always be here. The same thing with organizations like GIZ or other development partners. So that's on one hand. On the other hand is infrastructure financing. It's my own, it's a very strong pain point for me in agriculture. To a very distinguished person that spoke about irrigation. Irrigation is an infrastructure in itself. All the irrigation facilities we have in most parts of the country today, they were built in the 60s. And if we're talking about financing infrastructure, it is highly capital intensive. The investment outlay is always very huge. How can we de-risk agri-infrastructure financing? That really is my question. How can we de-risk agri-infrastructure financing? And I have a couple of ideas which I can throw on the fray. And it's about looking at syndication, blended guarantee, de-risking, co-guarantee, which you are building with the consortium, even though I think the consortium is presently focusing on the lower end, which are the smallholders, which controls, you know, the mass of the production segment. Maybe later we move up the segment to look at the high end. But yes, can we have some sort of a syndicated guarantee that can provide a broad-based resource to absorb any risk that can come from infrastructure financing? We're talking about patient financing, 20, 30 years. What kind of guarantee can cover that? So that's my question. The other question I have, it's about what do we think about the credibility of issuers of guarantee or insurance as it affects the uptake. So uptake of insurance, for instance, I listened very carefully to the executive director or the MD of NAHIG, and he said only 5.95% of bank credit goes to agriculture. I think it's even lesser than that, let's be real, you know. But when we look at the situation that led to the creation of NISA in 2013, that was the fundamentals. And the intention of creating NISA is to ensure that more commercial credit flows to agriculture. Now, if we are still talking about 5.95% of lending going to agriculture, then we need to recheck whether the reason why NISA was established is now being fulfilled. But what can we do differently? Maybe, can we get other form of NISA? Maybe at the subnational level. I advocated for this yesterday on my panel, and I think we need to think through that as well. But the core of my question to my panelists and to the entire House is about how do we really de-risk ag infrastructure financing? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. I think you somehow answered it. What we're looking at now is production. And like you rightly said, production hits the bottom of the pyramid. That's the center of gravity. But you also know that you're in the right space because we're talking about climate finance. There's adaptation, and then there's resilience. What we're looking at in this panel discussion was more or less on resilience. De-risking so that monies go in and facilitate production. When you are looking at longer tenured funding for infrastructure, you're now looking at adaptation finance. And there's a lot of mechanisms already in place. You know, we have the likes of the National Council on Climate Change. They are the designated national authority on climate-related issues, and there's a lot the government is doing in facilitating funding through that vehicle to push in longer tenured capital that can address a lot of this agri-infrastructural financing requirements. And I also agree with you in terms of guarantees. There has to be a more robust risk-sharing system for ag lending. NASAL started off well, but I think there's need for more improvements. And I also think there's also stronger need for collaboration and partnership with the likes of NAIC and the private underwriters that we have here. But like we said, it's ongoing, it's evolving. From what I can take from the whole conversations, there's deeper need for partnerships and collaborations to make this work. Everybody needs to come in with their expertise, galvanize, and get things done. But I don't want to be the only one talking. I don't know if anyone in the panel would like to chime in. Madam Bank of Agric, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. You're going out. Okay, he's coming in. Thank you very much for the purpose of those of you, the development partners that don't know why our balance sheet is toxic. It's because of some beautiful programs by the federal government, one in 2013 on mechanization, and the second one was in 2015. That is the Ankoboros program. And government as a then, the programs was very, very beautiful, and it was meant well for the Nigerians. Unfortunately, so many things happened, and many people are involved, that the program was bad. So that was the reason why Bank of Agriculture has a toxic balance sheet. Because I don't want some other development partners here to be scared of the bank, because you say JICA maybe ran away to BOI. Bank of Agriculture is a different bank now. We are doing things differently. Even the 250 billion that has been released to us just of recent, we are going to do things differently.
So Madam, that was right before you became so good looking as a bank. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can give this panel a round of applause like no other. Why I say so is that this is a fantastic conversation we've had so far. Folks are already sending me messages. Thank you for inviting us here. Oh, there is, yeah, I hear you, but there is someone online, right? She's still there? Just that we're hard pressed for time, but I think we will give you just a minute to make that point, sir. And I will stop you at the end of a minute. Be sure of that.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're all here because of the farmers. And there's a simple question I want to ask the panelists to address. The farmer wants to know, where is his risk in the present situation we are, where the price of commodities is going down? How can you de-risk? Can we be able to pay even his premium?
Thank you.
Have the consortium considered the situation
Thank
of
you very
farmers?
much. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's a good question. It's one that we can always address later. As we speak to you now, His Excellency the President is billed to address us. That information has come to us, and we are gearing up for the President's address. But before then, I want to very quickly recognize in our midst presidents with a small p. The AFAN president is here, Dr. Farouk Rabiu Mudi. And when I say AFAN president, I mean AFAN president. The AFAN president. The courts have, basically superintended over this matter and laid it to rest. President, please stand up. I think we should turn the camera to him so that everybody will see him and will know who the AFAN president is, the real one, by force of a court judgment, substantive, but then again we have to recognize the fact that you submitted this process to the judicial, the course of adjudication. You didn't take laws into your hands. It is a very, very exemplary approach. We should all take a cue from it that this man, instead of taking things into his hands, actually went through the process, and he is here, the legitimate AFAN president, by force of a court judgment. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Also in our midst is the National Association of Cattle Dealers, Processors, and Marketers of Nigeria President, Alhaji Ilyasu Bulama. He is a president under a president. So his own is a smaller p of the small p. Alhaji Bulama, you're welcome. The big P or the bigger small p is Alhaji Sharif Balogun. He's here, the president of the Federation of Agricultural Commodities Association of Nigeria. Alhaji Sharif, please rise to be recognized. I have also the president of the Nigeria-Egypt Chamber of Commerce. He's here, Sain Lere. Sain Lere, please. Alhaji Lere is a man that, I have known for a while now, and I can tell you that he's a man wearing multiple caps, from Nasima to, the whole 9 yards. Alhaji, you're welcome, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me do the honors. First and foremost, to release my panel. Please, you are released. Photographers, let's pose for the camera. Chukwuma, thanks for such a fantastic facilitation and really, really illuminating session. Are we good? All right. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I have the profound honor to introduce a leader whose vision is not just driving agricultural development in Nigeria, but is also pushing the wallet on the continent of Africa. This country, Nigeria, is at the heart of Africa, but agriculture is actually at the heart of the development of the continent of Africa. And a leader who is ensuring that the sector gets the kind of leadership that it deserves is one that every one of us as individuals in this room, every one of us as citizens of this country and of the continent should support. Under his leadership, Nigeria is charting a bold new path in food security, agribusiness investment, and continental partnerships, framing. He is not just doing that for the continent, but he's taking it onto the world stage. The Africa Agricultural Dialogue Framework is happy to introduce to this forum none other than Asiwaju himself, the one who is leading on the front end. I hear them call him Jagaban of Bogo. So I will also add that title, the Jagaban of Africa. His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Livestock Development, Alhaji Idris Ajimobi. I don't want to say he's my very good friend because he's the president at this point in time, until he leaves this podium. Mr. President, sir.
I'm sure we would all like to be called Mr. President, the big Mr. P. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
A rising ovation, please, if you don't mind. Yes.
Please be seated. Good evening, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, international partners, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, had intended to personally deliver this keynote address. However, due to an upcoming three-nation visit for strategic engagements aimed at further positioning Nigeria as a leading player on the global stage, commencing on the 10th of October, he is unavoidably absent today. On behalf of His Excellency, my principal, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, I am deeply honored to welcome you all once again to Abuja for this historic edition of the Africa Agriculture Dialogue 2025, co-anchored by Nigeria in partnership with the African Development Bank and our continental partners. This gathering marks a defining moment, the first time the dialogue is being held on African soil and in our nation's capital. It is not just a privilege, but a profound responsibility for Nigeria to host this platform, where Africa speaks for itself, defines priorities, mobilizes resources needed to feed its people. Unlocking Africa's agricultural future. Across our continent, agriculture remains both the backbone of our economies and the bridge to our shared prosperity. Yet, access to finance continues to be one of the single greatest obstacles between Africa's potentials and its performance. That is why the theme of this dialogue, unlocking finance for agricultural transformation in Africa, could not be more timely. It invites us to rethink how capital flows into agriculture, how risk is shared, and how finance can move from being a barrier to becoming a catalyst for transformation. Our commitment and reform so far, under the leadership of President Tinubu, GCFR, Nigeria has embarked on bold reforms to reposition agriculture as a driver for growth and security. These include the declaration of a state of emergency on agriculture, the creation of the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, and the recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture, a clear signal that agricultural finance is a national priority, not an afterthought. Through these efforts, Nigeria is demonstrating that effective policy and institutional reforms can unlock its financing pathways that our farmers and agribusinesses desperately need. As such, we believe livestock is imperative. As we discuss financing, we must remember that agriculture is not complete without livestock. Across Africa, livestock sustains millions of livelihoods, contributes significantly to GDP, and supports nutrition and trade. Yet, it remains grossly underfinanced. Nigeria's goal at this dialogue is to ensure livestock takes its rightful place in Africa's agricultural financing agenda. We are developing a livestock finance and insurance framework designed to de-risk
investments, strengthen animal health systems, and build value chains that create jobs and exporting opportunities. When we invest in livestock, we are not just supporting farmers, we are investing in communities, in resilience, and in the very backbone of rural Africa. For our partnerships of impact, transformation will not come through public policy alone. It requires partnerships between governments, developmental banks, private investors, and the farmers themselves. I commend the African Development Bank for its leadership and unwavering commitment to financing Africa's growth. Together, we must align our efforts around one shared goal: mobilizing sustainable capital for Africa's food systems. Distinguished guests, as a call to action, as we conclude this two-day dialogue, I urge all participants to continuously focus on solutions that are practical, scalable, and inclusive. Let us leave Abuja with a clear roadmap for mobilizing and managing agricultural finance, commitments to strengthen blended finance, insurance, and credit systems, and a renewed determination to make agriculture and livestock truly bankable sectors. This dialogue must not end in conversation. It must lead to commitments, capital, and concrete outcomes. In closing, let me reaffirm Nigeria's unwavering commitment to working with our continental partners and the African Development Bank to build an Africa that feeds itself, finances itself, and defines its own future. This renewed hope administration will continue to work closely and hand in hand with the African Development Bank and other key partners to bring the compact to life, ensuring full and coordinated support for Africa agricultural dialogue process. Together, we can transform our shared agricultural vision by unlocking finance, empowering our farmers, ensuring that no community is left behind. We can position Nigeria as regional leaders in livestock sector. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the African continent, and the work of our hands. Thank you all so much.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think that His Excellency the President, ably represented, deserves another round of applause, please. At this time, it's been a very long 2 days and very engaging, to say the least. We want to move to the final act, and that is taking on the compact that this event is supposed to hatch in order that we can basically move into the global conversation coming up on the 21st to 23rd of October in Des Moines, Iowa, the Nobel of Agriculture, the World Food Prize. The man who set it up, Dr. Norman Borlaug, has always had been, is still, and would always be the father of modern agriculture. He it is who set out to ensure that folks who did not have access to food were given an opportunity to be dignified, to be satisfied, to be provided for through the intellectual, his intellectual capacities. He was a researcher, and he resorted to biotechnological research that basically pulled out millions of people out of poverty, out of hunger, to the point where they had access to food. Ladies and gentlemen, this compact, I think I have that presentation ready. This compact is one that we will be calling on His Excellency the President, all of our dignitaries, some of those who are part of our support framework, the development financing institutions, and also our development partners, to please join us as we evolve this compact as the outcome, the product of these agenda-setting sessions that we've had over the last 2 days. If we are ready, are we set with it? So I think I could call on His Excellency the President, ably represented, and other members of the other special guests to please join me up here just to make an affirmation of the fact that the outcomes from these agenda-setting sessions will be the basis for Africa's views at the world stage as we go into Des Moines from the 21st to 23rd. That commitment, if gotten, can then be the basis for Nigeria's leadership of the Africa entry. His Excellency the President, please let me invite you to come up here, sir. And the President of AFAN, other presidents that are here, please join us up here. Victoria, Your Excellency, the Ambassador, please join us up here, sir. And then our distinguished Mr. Pereira, Dr. Pereira, please come. Jerry Cunningham, please join us. No, we can sit. We can sit. We can sit. No. Let's even. All right. Okay, the seats aren't enough actually. Okay, so let's stand. Let's stand. His Excellency can sit. The lady can sit too. Okay, there's an Excellency.
Thank you, sir. But there are more chairs that we can bring. It's not like they can't bring them.
I think it's the president that would need to voice, the affirmation of the compact. And that will be shared. It's just being finalized. It will be shared just to save our time. Your Excellency, please, just to affirm the fact that the compact that is going to be the outcome of this activity will be the basis for Africa's entry and Africa's conversation on the global stage as we dialogue at the World Food Prize. Please, sir.
I hereby affirm that the compact, what was I meant to affirm? It's a compact. Yes, okay, yes. and the compact will take place in... The compact is the outcome of this. Sorry, forgive me. Yes, so I'm here to hereby affirm that the compact and collaborations and partnerships made today will be the basis for our trip to the further conversations that will be had at Des Moines, Illinois, the World Food Prize event coming up on the 21st of October, and we look forward to seeing everybody there as well. Thank you so much.
Please. Well done.
Yeah, maybe that might be better if we spread out. So, only if you help me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. On behalf of the African Development Bank Group and the Africa Agriculture Dialogue convening authorities, I want to thank His Excellency the President of Nigeria for the leadership that he has exemplified, and also to thank all of our colleagues who queued in from across the continent to be part of this activity. Again, the history of this activity is one that started or was built for the 29th and 30th of September 2025, but we had to move same to the 7th and the 8th of October so that we could have it here in this imposing and historic auditorium and venue. It is only fitting that Nigeria, which has the better part of the resources that the African Development Bank is saddled with to address the issues of development on the continent, is taking the leadership regarding this effort. And we are very grateful to His Excellency the President for this decision. I will take back the outcomes here to my president, again with a small p. Sidi Aoud Tar. And I believe that in our efforts as the bank, we will ensure that whatever comes out as a compact will be supported profoundly. Your Excellency, sir. So the bank is committing to ensuring that we support whatever outcomes you have here from here on in a way that ensures that the rest of Africa benefits. On this note, you have it? It's here? Okay. On this note, shall we rise for the national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As you travel, as you leave here, may you do so safely. And may we continue to advance the prospects of the agricultural sector of Africa. Lunch is served.
They should go for lunch. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please, you can now proceed to have your lunch. Lunch is ready.